Hello guys, welcome to Ben 10 What Ifs. So in this video, we will see, what if Ben 10 was reincarnated as Azmuth's son with ultimate Omnitrix? If you enjoy these kinds of stories, don't forget to show us some love by hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel. Your support means the world to us. Now, let's start the story. Blank. Chapter 1. Convergence Point. The ionic thrusters on Zenith's back whined as he cut sharply through the violet atmosphere of Methanos. His quarry, a chronosapian Fuji, Tive named Tempest, had been dimension hopping for weeks, leaving fractured timelines in his wake. 6 planets, 3 dimensions, and countless headaches later, the chase was finally reaching its conclusion. Probability of target attempting dimensional shift in the next 60 seconds, 87%, the ultimate Omnitrix announced in its neutral tone, the emerald and silver device seamless L.Y. integrated into Zenith's Galvan physiology rather than strapped to his wrist. Not this time, Zenith muttered, his voice deeper than typical for his species. Though he possessed the unmistakable gray-skinned, amphibian-like appearance of a Galvan, he stood nearly twice their average height, his frame more robust, his green eyes unnervingly intense, a genetic anomaly Azmuth had never fully explained to others. Zenith's fingers danced across the Omnitrix's neural interface, his movements precise and practiced. A flash of emerald light engulfed him, restructuring his molecular composition. Where the Galvan had hovered moments before, XLR-8 now streaked through the sky, velocity pushing past Mach 3. The transformation was flawless. No disorientation, no momentary adaptation. Unlike Ben Tennyson's sometimes clumsy transitions, Zenith's mind and the Omnitrix operated in perfect synchronicity, the product of both Azmuth's refinements and 2 decades of experience in this reincarnated existence. Tempest became visible ahead, the clockwork mechanisms of his body spinning frantically as he prepared to tear open another dimensional portal. The chronosapian's copper and bronze body gleamed the crimson light of Methanos' setting trinary stars, his temporal manipulation abilities making the very air around him distort and waver. Zenith didn't hesitate. Another neural command, another emerald flash. Big chill, he whispered unnecessarily, the words a lingering habit from another lifetime. Spectral wings unfurled as his now phantasmal form accelerated, phasing through the dense LLIC clouds separating him from his target. The temperature plummeted around him, frost crystallizing in intricate patterns as he moved. Tempest sensed the approach too late. Interference detected. Timeline corruption imminent, the chronosapian's mechanical voice announced as he attempted to complete the dimensional rift. Zenith exhaled a concentrated stream of sub-zero particles, instantly freezing the dimensional tear as it began to form. The crystallized space-time rift shattered into thousands of iridescent fragments that hung suspended in the atmosphere. Your dimensional vandalism ends here, Zenith declared, his voice echoing with ethereal harmonics. The time-space accords of the restored universe are non-negotiable, Tempest. The chronosapian's faceplate rotated to reveal a secondary combat configuration. The offspring of Azmuth. Intriguing. His voice resonated with metallic overtones, each syllable accompanied by the soft ticking of precision gears. You cannot comprehend had I've witnessed beyond the dimensional veil. The collapse is inevitable. I merely accelerate the predetermined outcome. I've heard this existential nihilism before, Zenith replied, initiating another transformation sequence. Usually right before I arrest someone. The emerald light reconfigured him into Gravitax, an alien form unknown to Ben Tennyson, discovered years after his sacrifice. The crystalline, obsidian being hovered before Tempest, gravity warping around his angular form. Tempest fired a temporal displacement beam, distorting the space between them. Zenith countered by creating a gravitational singularity that bent the beam back upon itself. The resulting temporal loop trapped the attack in an endless cycle between dimensions. Fascinating application of gravitational manipulation to counter temporal physics, Tempest observed, genuine scientific curiosity temporarily overshadowing his desperation. Azmuth has taught you well. Zenith didn't respond to the compliment. Instead, he opened micro-singularities around the chronosapian's limbs, immobilizing him in localized gravity fields that even temporal manipulation couldn't overcome. The ultimate Omnitrix contains genetic samples from 1,912 species across 17 dimensions, Zenith stated calmly. including 12 varieties of chronosapiens. Your temporal manipulation is impressive but predictable. With Tempest secured, Zenith activated his communicator. Target acquired. Requesting dimensional containment unit at my coordinates. A voice crackled through the comms, formal, clipped, with the unmistakable cadence of plumber special operations. Containment unit dispatched to your location. ETA. 3 minutes, 17 seconds. Commander Void requests immediate debrief, Zenith. Acknowledged, he replied, suppressing a sigh. Commander Lyra Void, brilliant tactician, uncompromising leader, and perpetual skeptic regarding anything connected to Omnitrix technology. While waiting for the containment unit, Zenith returned to his Galvan form, conserving energy. The ultimate Omnitrix could maintain transformations indefinitely, another of Azmuth's improvements, but efficiency had been ingrained in him since childhood. Why pursue me so relentlessly? Tempest asked, his mechanical voice now subdued. You possess the power to witness what I have seen. The timeline fractures. Reality unravels. Someone is hunting across dimensions. Zenith's large eyes narrowed. Hunting what? Not what, Tempest corrected. Who? They hunt reflections of you, Omnitrix bearer. Or rather, reflections of who you once were. The statement sent an unexpected chill through Zenith's spine, triggering a memory cascade. 21 years earlier, the dimensional collapse had been catastrophic, a chain reaction triggered by Maltruant's attempt to rewrite reality. Ben Tennyson, at 25, had faced impossible odds before, but never multiversal extinction. The solution had been elegantly simple and unbearably final, using Alien X to contain the collapse. But at the cost of his own existence. Gwen had protested, Kevin had sworn, Rook had strategized alternatives, but Ben had simply smiled that crooked smile and adjusted his worn Omnitrix one final time. Dude, I've died like 6 times already, he joked to Kevin. Maybe this time it'll actually stick. His last words to Azmuth had been more solemn. I guess. I finally used this thing exactly how you intended. Take care of them, okay. The transformation into Alien X had been the last. The collapse contained. The universe restored, -1 hero. Except consciousness, like energy. Cannot be destroyed, only transformed. 6 months later, Azmuth had made a discovery in his primary laboratory on restored Galvan Prime. A spontaneous gestation chamber had formed from ambient Galvan genetic material and, impossibly, DNA extracted from the Omnitrix's core memory. Inside, an embryonic Galvan with unmistakable human genetic markers. Upon birth, the infant had opened bright green eyes and spoken his first word, hero. Azmuth, the greatest intellect in 5 galaxies, had wept. The memory faded as the plumber containment unit arrived, materializing through a controlled dimensional aperture. 4 officers in specialized chrono-resistant armor secured Tempest, who continued staring at Zenith with unnerving intensity. The dimensional hunter comes, the chronosapien warned as they led him away. You cannot hide from your reflections forever. Zenith frowned, filing away the cryptic warning for later analysis. His sensitive Galvan hearing detected distinctive hum of a plumber command shuttle approaching, sleek, black, and intimidating, much like its pilot. Commander Lyra Void didn't wait for the shuttle to fully land before leaping from the cockpit. Her movements were precise, almost mechanically efficient, yet undeniably graceful. Standing nearly 6 feet tall, with close-cropped silver hair despite her apparent youth, Lyra cut an imposing figure in her customized plumber uniform. The subtle metallic gleam at her temples revealed her hybrid nature, half human, half chronosapien, a genetic combination that granted her limited temporal awareness. Zenith, she acknowledged, her violet eyes scanning him with professional detachment. Target secured at T-3 minutes, 42 seconds from initial engagement. Your efficiency met. RICS continued to exceed standard protocols. She checked her chronometer, an unnecessary gesture since her internal chronosapien components tracked time perfectly. Debrief in 17 minutes. We have a situation. Zenith recognized her clipped speech pattern. Lyra spoke as if time itself was a precious resource not to be wasted on unnecessary syllables. The fugitive mentioned a dimensional hunter, he offered, targeting reflections of Ben Tennyson across realities. Lyra's expression remained neutral, but the metallic implants at her temples pulsed slightly faster. Confirmed. Dimensional anomalies detected in 7 sectors. Time-space integrity compromised. Follow me. Inside her shuttle, holographic displays illuminated the cabin with data streams too complex for most species to comprehend. Zenith absorbed the information instantly, his enhanced Galvan intellect processing patterns within patterns. These anomalies, he observed, they're not random. They're targeted extractions. Correct. Each breach corresponds to a reality featuring active Omnitrix wielder. Specifically, Benjamin Tennyson variants. Lyra manipulated the displays with quick hand gestures. 5 confirmed casualties across dimensional boundaries. Extraction pattern suggests biological sampling before termination. Something cold settled in Zenith's chest. Someone's collecting Ben Tennyson's DNA. Affirmative. And chronosynaptic patterns. Memories. Experiences. Lyra turned to face him directly, her expression softening almost imperceptibly. They're harvesting everything that made him, him. The implication hung between them. Everything that made him you. Zenith's large Galvan eyes narrowed. Does Azmuth know? Negative. Plumber intelligence classified this ultraviolet. Your father's connect. Ion to you made him potential information liability. Azmuth is never a liability, Zenith countered, a rare flash of anger coloring his voice. He needs to be informed immediately. Lyra's chronometric implants pulsed once. Request logged. Decision pending. Current priority. Pyro's diplomatic summit. Interdimensional activity detected near Pyronite ancestral flames. The Eternal Forge, Zenith translated. Why target a ceremonial location? Unknown. Ambassador Ember Pyros requested Omnitrix bearer presence specifically. The corner of Lyra's mouth twitched slightly, the closest she came to displaying irritation. Diplomatic request highlighted your unique perspective spanning worlds. Zenith couldn't suppress a small smile. Ambassador Pyros has a flair for the dramatic. Understatement. Prepare for immediate departure. Dimensional incursion probability at Pyros, 73% and rising. Lyra programmed the coordinates with practiced efficiency. Azmuth will be notified of dimensional threat pattern after diplomatic mission concludes. As the shuttle prepared for dimensional jump, Zenith initialized a secure quantum channel to Galvan Prime. If a multiversal threat W, as targeting Ben Tennyson across dimensions, no one would understand the implications better than the creator of the Omnitrix. The message he sent was brief, encoded in a cipher only Azmuth would recode. Nice. The echo of your greatest failure returns. Prepare the forge. The Pyronite homeworld existed in a state of perpetual volcanic activity, rivers of magma flowing beneath obsidian plateaus where structures of hardened magma formed intricate citadels. The Eternal Forge, the ceremonial heart of Pyronite civilization, rose from the largest volcanic caldera, its flames burning in colors beyond conventional visual spectrum. Zenith had transformed into Ignolux, a plasma-based lifeform capable of withstanding extreme temperatures while maintaining his cognitive functions. The transformation wasn't strictly necessary. The ultimate Omnitrix provided environmental protection in any form, but diplomatic protocol suggested adopting a heat-resistant form as a gesture of cultural respect. Ambassador Ember Pyros awaited them at the edge of the diplomatic plateau, her flame body burning brighter than those around her. Unlike most Pyronites whose flames burned orange-yellow, Ember's core radiated a distinctive blue-white intensity that marked her ancient bloodline. The son of Azmuth graces us with his presence, she announced, her voice melodious despite the crackling undertones inherent to her species. The flames of Pyros welcome Zenith, bearer of the ultimate Omnitrix and guardian of the restored timeline. Formal titles had never sat comfortably with Zenith, a trait inherited from his previous existence. Ambassador Pyros, he acknowledged with a respectful nod. I understand dimensional anomalies threaten the Eternal Forge. Direct as ever, Ember replied, amusement dancing in her fiery eyes. No flowery diplomatic exchanges, no customary flame sharing. You would make a terrible Pyronite diplomat, Guardian Zenith. Commander Void stepped forward, her chrono-resistant armor already adjusting to the extreme heat. Time constraints necessitate expedited protocols, Ambassador. Dimensional threat assessment takes priority over ceremonial obligations. Ember's flames flickered, in what might have been a Pyronite equivalent of an eye roll. Your Chronosapian hybrid speaks as if every second carries the weight of a dying star. She turned back to Zenith. Very well. Follow me to the inner sanctum. What I must show you cannot be witnessed by ordinary eyes. As they followed Ember across bridges of solidified magma, Zenith observed subtle changes in the Pyronite civilization since his last visit. New architectural forms spiraled upward, forming complex geometric patterns that seemed to channel and amplify the natural energy of the planet. Pyronite citizens moved with purpose, their flame bodies fluctuating with emotions as they acknowledged their distinguished visitor with formal flame salutes. Your people have been busy, Zenith noted. These structures weren't here 3 standard years ago. Ember's flame brightened with pride. The ancient flame arts are being rediscovered. I have led the cultural renaissance personally. She gestured toward a particularly intricate spire that twisted impossibly before disappearing into the smoke-filled sky. That is the Tower of Prognostication. It was there that our seers first detected the dimensional disturbances. Wyronite precognition is not scientifically verified, Lyra stated flatly, her chrono implants pulsing with skepticism. Not all knowledge bends to your scientific methods, Commander. Ember's voice read a hint of fire despite her diplomatic training. Some truths are written in the patterns of the eternal flames, visible only to those who have studied the ancient ways. They reached a sealed chamber deep within the mountain, where the air itself seemed to shimmer with heat and potential energy. Ember placed her flame hand against an obsidian door inscribed with symbols so old they predated modern Pyronite language. The markings glowed in response, recognizing her bloodline's authority. What I am about to show you has been hidden from outsiders for 10,000 years, she explained as the massive door slowly opened. Our most sacred prophecies are inscribed here, including one that speaks of an omni-being who walks between lives. Zenith exchanged a quick glance with Lyra, whose skepticism was evident despite her professional demeanor. The inner chamber contained a pool of liquid fire that cast dancing shadows across walls covered in flame-carved hieroglyphs. At the center of the pool floated a crystalline structure that pulsed with colors that shouldn't exist in normal space-time. The chronolith, Ember explained, her voice dropping to a reverential tone. A fragment of time itself, crystallized during the birth of our universe. Lyra's composure finally cracked. Impossible. Temporal crystallization cannot occur naturally, Zenith finished, moving closer to examine the phenomenon. But it could be artificially induced by a sufficiently advanced civilization. He turned to Ember. How long has this been here? Always, she replied simply. The first flame formed around it. Our civilization grew from its temporal energies. Her flames dimmed slightly. 3 cycles ago, it began showing disturbing visions, multiple timelines fracturing simultaneously, centered around a single nexus point. Quote, let me guess, Zenith said grimly. The nexus point is Benjamin Tennyson. Yes and no. Ember manipulated the flames surrounding the crystal, causing images to form within, swirling galaxies. Parallel dimensions, and a recurring pattern that resembled the Omnitrix symbol. The nexus is both Tennyson and something more. The prophecy speaks of one who dies but lives, bearing the mark of infinity across all possible worlds. Our seers believe this refers to you, Zenith. Before he could respond, the crystal pulsed violently, emitting a high-pitched tone that caused even Lyra to wince in pain. The temporal disturbance was immediate and unmistakable. Reality itself seemed to thin around them as a dimensional tear formed directly above the chronolith. Dimensional incursion in progress, Lyra shouted, drawing her chrono-stabilizer weapon. Breach pattern matches previous Ben Tennyson targeting events. Zenith didn't hesitate. A flash of emerald light transformed him from Ignolux to Gravitax, his crystalline form immediately exerting gravitational control over the forming breach. Ember, activate whatever defenses this chamber has, he ordered, training against the interdimensional pressure. This isn't a random incursion. Something is using the chronolith as a targeting beacon. The tear widened despite his efforts, revealing a swirling vortex of time-space energies. Through the distortion, a figure emerged, humanoid but clearly artificial, its body composed of shifting metallic segments that reconfigured continuously as it moved. Its face was blank except for a single green sensor array arranged in a familiar hourglass pattern. Omnitrix signature detected, it announced in a voice that sounded disturbingly like a mechanized version of Ben Tennyson's. Primary target located. Initiating DNA extraction protocol. I don't think so, Zenith growled, creating a gravitational singularity between himself and the intruder. The space T-me distortion should have torn the mechanical being apart, but instead, it simply adapted, its body reconfiguring to resist the gravitational forces. Adaptive response capabilities detected, Lyra analyzed clinically. Firing her chrono-stabilizer at the intruder. The temporal energy blast struck the machine but was immediately absorbed into its structure. Negative effect. Target appears capable of assimilating energy attacks. Ember moved with unexpected grace for a being composed of living flame, her hands weaving complex patterns in the air. Ancient Pyronite arts aren't just cultural relics, she declared as the flames around them responded to her movements, forming intricate geometric patterns that seemed to stabilize the dimensional breach. They were developed to combat threats from beyond our dimension. The machine turned its attention to Ember, its sensor array focusing on her distinctive blue-white flame core. Secondary DNA signature of interest detected. Pyronite royal bloodline, adding to extraction queue. Stay away from her, Zenith snarled, initiating another transformation. The emerald light reconfigured him into Chrono Spectre, a ghostly time-manipulating form that could phase between moments in time. Moving between seconds, Zenith approached the machine from multiple temporal angles simultaneously, striking at joints and energy conduits with precision. Each blow landed with the force of accumulated temporal momentum, finally causing visible damage to the mechanical hunter. Temporal attack pattern recognized, the machine stated, its voice glitching slightly. Adapting countermeasures based on Timeline B. Benjamin Tennyson combat data. The statement confirmed Zenith's fears. This thing had already killed and analyzed at least one alternate version of Ben Tennyson. Lyra circled the chamber, her hybrid chronosapian abilities allowing her to predict the machine's movements seconds before they occurred. Its structural integrity is declining at 17% per minute, she reported. Sustain current attack pattern for 5 more minutes to ensure. She never finished the sentence. The machine suddenly teleported directly behind her, its arm reconfiguring into a sampling probe that plunged toward her exposed neck. Only her innate temporal reflex saved her, allowing her to twist away with microseconds to spare. Commander, Zenith shouted, abandoning his attack strategy to intercept. Another transformation, another flash of emerald light, this time becoming Velocityrant, a speed-based predatory alien with reaction times beyond even XLR-8's capabilities. What happened next occurred too quickly for normal perception. Zenith moved at relativistic speed, creating a vacuum in his wake as he interposed himself between Lyra and the machine. Simultaneously, Ember unleashed a concentrated blast of her royal blue flame, striking the dimensional hunter from behind. The combined attack momentarily overwhelmed the machine's adaptive capabilities. Its body convulsed, green energy crackling across its surface as its systems attempted to compensate. Damage assessment. Critical, it announced, its voice distorting. Initiating emergency extraction and dimensional recall. Before they could press their advantage, the machine fired a pulse of energy at the chronolith. The crystal absorbed the energy and amplified it, creating a controlled dimensional collapse that began pulling the machine back toward the breach. It's escaping, Lyra shouted, firing her weapon continuously at the retreating figure. Zenith transformed again, this time into Quantum Reach, an alien form capable of extending its consciousness across dimensions. Tendrils of pure thought energy stretched from his transformed body toward the machine, attempting to establish a connection before it vanished. For one brief moment, he succeeded, touching the machine's neural network and glimpsing fragments of its programming. Project Tennyson Convergence. Subjects acquired. 7/10. Primary Architect. Alb. The connection severed as the dimensional breach collapsed in upon itself, leaving the chamber in sudden, eerie silence. The chronolith continued pulsing with residual energy. But the immediate threat had passed. Zenith returned to his Galvan form, his large eyes narrowed in thought. It was collecting DNA samples and memory patterns from alternate versions of Ben Tennyson, he stated grimly. This confirms Tempest's warning. More concerning, Lyra added, checking her temporal sensors, it specifically targeted Ambassador Pyros once it detected her royal Pyronite lineage. Ember approached the chronolith, her flames dimmed to a thoughtful flicker. The prophecy speaks of 10 champions whose essence must combine with the Omni-being. She turned to face them, her fiery eyes solemn. I believe I'm one of those 10, and someone is trying to harvest us before we can fulfill our destined purpose. I don't believe in destiny, Zenith replied, though the words felt hollow even to himself. After all, what was his entire existence if not some cosmic twist of fate? But I do believe in patterns, and this one suggests whoever built that machine knows exactly what they're doing. They're building something, Lyra concluded, her analytical mind already processing the implications. Or someone, using genetic material and memories from across dimensions. A heavy silence fell over the chamber as the full implication of her words sank in. Whatever entity was hunting across dimensions wasn't just killing Ben Tennyson's, they were extracting what made each one unique. Creating a composite being of unimaginable potential. We need to return to Galvan Prime immediately, Zenith decided, activating his communicator. If anyone can unravel this multiversal puzzle, it's Azmuth. As they prepared to leave, Ember placed a flame hand on his arm, her touch regulated to avoid harming him. The prophecy also speaks of gathering the 10 champions before the convergence point. If I am indeed one of them, I should accompany you. Lyra started to object on protocol grounds, but Zenith raised a hand to silence her. She's right. If someone is targeting specific individuals connected to this multiversal event, we're safer together than separated. Something shifted in Lyra's expression, a momentary crack in her professional facade that revealed genuine concern. Probability of additional dimensional incursions increases by 23% for each identified champion gathered in one location. Then we'll be ready, Zenith replied with quiet confidence. Upload all data on the Dimensional Hunter to Plumber Headquarters and Galvan Prime. Priority Ultraviolet, Authorization Zenith Prime Alpha. As they departed the chamber, Ember moved beside him, her flame casting dancing shadows across his Galvan features. You know more than you're saying, she observed softly. About the machine, about the prophecy. Zenith nodded almost imperceptibly. I recognized the design architecture in its base code. If I'm right about who's behind this, we're facing someone who understands the Omnitrix almost as well as Azmuth himself. He paused, memories from another lifetime surfacing. Someone who once tried to become Ben Tennyson, and failed. The journey to Galvan Prime normally took 3 standard days through conventional space travel. With Lyra's ECI Elysed dimensional short jump capabilities, they arrived within hours, emerging into the carefully regulated atmosphere of the most technologically advanced planet in the galaxy. Galvan Prime had been completely rebuilt after its destruction decades earlier. Its new incarnation surpassed the original in every measurable way, floating cities of impossible architecture, quantum computer cores BLE is crystalline spires that processed universe-scale data, and environmental systems that maintained perfect balance through microscopic adjustments. At the center of the capital city stood Azmuth's primary laboratory complex, a modest structure by Galvan standards, belying the revolutionary innovations created within its walls. Unlike most Galvan buildings that showcased their technological superiority, Azmuth's facility was designed for function rather than form, reflecting its creator's pragmatic nature. Their shuttle was granted immediate landing clearance, a rarity even for Zenith. As they disembarked, he noticed unusual activity throughout the complex. Security protocols had been elevated, and Galvan scientists moved with greater urgency than normal. Your father received your message, Lyra observed, her temporal senses allowing her to read subtle patterns in the activity around them. Security parameters increased approximately 6 hours ago, corresponding with your transmission. Ember emerged last, her flame body automatically adjusting to prevent damage to the sensitive environment. Several Galvan scientists paused to observe her with undisguised curiosity. Pyronites roar. Ely visited Galvan Prime due to compatibility issues between their natural fire-based biology and Galvan technology. They stare as if I might ignite their precious laboratories, she noted with a mixture of amusement and irritation. Royal Pyronites have perfect molecular combustion control. It's not concern they're exhibiting, Zenith explained as they walked. It's scientific curiosity. Your royal blue flame represents a genetic variation they find fascinating. They were met at the laboratory entrance by Myax, Azmuth's longtime assistant. The female chimera sui generis nodded in acknowledgement, her tentacled face impossible for most species to read but familiar enough to Zenith. He's waiting in the dimensional analysis chamber, she stated without preamble. And he's in one of his moods. Zenith suppressed a smile. Azmuth's moods were legendary across multiple galaxies, brilliant insights often accompanied by caustic commentary and impatience with anyone unable to keep pace with his intellect. The dimensional analysis chamber occupied the deepest level of the complex, surrounded by quantum shielding and temporal stabilizers that prevented unauthorized observation. As they entered, they found Azmuth standing atop a hovering platform, manipulating holographic displays that showed multiple timelines simultaneously. Despite his diminutive Galvan stature, Azmuth's presence dominated the room. Age had not diminished his sharp intellect or vitality. If anything, the years had refined his genius to an even more formidable edge. "You're late," he stated without turning around. "I expected you 3 hours. 17 minutes, and 42 seconds ago. We had an encounter with the Dimensional Hunter," Zenith replied, reverting to his natural Galvan form. Even in this state, he towered over his father, a constant reminder of his unique heritage. "Of course you did," Azmuth replied, finally turning to face them. His eyes lingered briefly on Ember and Lyra before focusing on his son. "It's targeting individuals with specific genetic markers and temporal significance. Ambassador Pyros carries the Royal Flame genome, one of only 7 remaining in existence. Commander, Void possesses hybrid chronosapian genetics that shouldn't be possible according to conventional biology." He gestured toward a central display showing a rotating double helix interwoven with temporal energy patterns. "And you, Zenith, represent the most unique genetic anomaly in this or any dimension, Galvan biology combined with human consciousness and temporal memory imprinting." Lyra stepped forward, her professional demeanor momentarily set aside. "You've been analyzing this threat pattern independently of Plumber intelligence." "Plumber intelligence," Azmuth scoffed, "is an oxymoron. Your organization was classifying data and establishing protocols. I identified the interdimensional signature and traced it across 17 dimensions." "And," Zenith prompted, recognizing his her's tendency toward dramatic revelation. Azmuth's expression darkened. "It's albedo. Or rather, a version of albedo from a dimension where he succeeded in replacing Ben Tennyson and acquiring the original Omnitrix." A stunned silence fell over the chamber. Zenith had suspected as much after glimpsing the machine's programming, but confirmation sent a chill through him nonetheless. "That's impossible," Lyra finally stated. "Albedo was contained in dimensional stasis after the restored timeline stabilized." "In our dimension," Azmuth corrected. "The multiverse contains infinite variations. In at least one, he achieved his goal, only to discover that possessing the Omnitrix wasn't enough. He needed to become Ben Tennyson completely." Ember, who had remained silent until now, moved closer to the displays. "Your prophecy speaks of convergence. The Pyronite prophecy mentions 10 champions. These cannot be coincidences." "There are no coincidences in multiversal events," Azmuth agreed, icing them with his willingness to entertain seemingly mystical concepts. "Only patterns too complex for most minds to comprehend." He manipulated the displays again, revealing a map of dimensional weak points across multiple realities. "Albedo is systematically harvesting specific genetic material and memory patterns from 10 key individuals across dimensions. 7 Ben Tennysons have already been targeted and eliminated. The remaining targets include you, Zenith, and potentially others in this dimension who carry specific genetic markers." "The champions from the prophecy," Zenith concluded. "But why? What's his endgame?" Azmuth's expression became grim. "He's creating a perfect Tennyson, a being with all the potential of Ben Tennyson from across every timeline, but none of the human limitations or moral constraints." "A weapon," Lyra translated clinically. "Something far worse," Azmuth corrected. "A new nexus of reality itself. If he succeeds, this artificially created being could rewrite the fundamental laws of the multiverse according to Albedo's design." The implications were staggering. Even in his previous life as Ben Tennyson, Zenith had faced universe-level threats, but no thing that targeted the very fabric of multiple realities simultaneously. "How do we stop him?" he asked simply. Azmuth turned to face his son directly, his expression uncharacteristically solemn. "The Ultimate Omnitrix was designed for more than transformation, Zenith. It contains safeguards and capabilities I never entrusted to Ben Tennyson, including the ability to lock dimensional coordinates ND prevent unauthorized reality manipulation. He hesitated, something rare for the normally decisive Galvan. But activating these functions requires a complete neural interface, a melding of consciousness with the device that could permanently alter your perception of reality. You're talking about the unification protocol, Zenith realized, his eyes widening. You always said it was theoretical. That the biological strain would be too great for any wielder. For any normal wielder, Azmuth clarified. Your unique physiological nature, Galvan biology with human consciousness imprinting, makes you the only being capable of surviving the process. Lyra stepped forward, her chronometric implants pulsing with what might have been concern. Survival probability assessment, 63%, Azmuth admitted. With a 37% chance of permanent neural reconfiguration. Meaning? Ember asked, flames flickering anxiously. Meaning he might survive physically but lose himself mentally, Lyra translated. Her voice uncharacteristically soft. His consciousness could fragment across dimensional boundaries. A heavy silence fell over the chamber as the full implications became clear. Zenith faced a choice between risking his very identity or allowing Albedo's plan to proceed unchallenged. If I don't try, what happens? He asked quietly. Azmuth manipulated the displays one final time, showing a simulation of cascading dimensional collapses spreading outward like a shockwave. Total multiversal restructuring within 68 hours. Reality as we understand it would cease to exist, replaced by Albedo's vision of perfection. Zenith closed his eyes briefly, memories from 2 lifetimes flooding his consciousness. As Ben Tennyson, he had sacrificed himself once to save the universe. As Zenith, son of Azmuth, was he prepared to risk himself again? When Benjamin Tennyson faced his final sacrifice, Azmuth said softly, he acted without hesitation. That quality, inherent heroism, transferred with his consciousness into you, Zenith. It's not programming or genetic memory. It's who you are at your core. Ember moved closer, her flame casting warm light across Zenith's features. The Pyronite prophecy speaks of choice. The omni-being must willingly accept the convergence. Destiny exists, but so does free will. Temporal probability branches indicate multiple potential outcomes, Lyra added. Her analytical mind seeking patterns even now. Success scenarios exist within the probability matrix. Zenith looked at each of them in turn. His father, the Brillia. NT creator whose relationship with him had always been complex. Ember, the fiery diplomat whose passion for her people mirrored his own sense of responsibility. And Lyra, the temporal hybrid whose methodical approach masked deeper emotions than she acknowledged. In that moment, he recognized something he had missed before, connections forming between them all, subtle but undeniable. The prophecy wasn't just about gathering champions, it was about forging bonds that could withstand the coming multiversal storm. I'll do it, he decided finally. But not alone. The ultimate Omnitrix was designed to connect different species, different worlds. If Albedo is collecting 10 genetic signatures, we need to find the remaining champions and unite them. Azmuth nodded, a rare smile crossing his features. Already in progress. I've identified 3 additional individuals with the genetic markers Albedo is targeting. Locating them is our next priority. As if on cue, the dimensional monitors flared with warning signals. Multiple breaches were forming simultaneously across the sector. Albedo was accelerating his timetable. It seems our adversary has realized we've discovered his plan, Azmuth observed dryly. Prepare the laboratory for dimensional lockdown. We've moved from theoretical debate to practical application. Zenith felt the ultimate Omnitrix pulse against his Galvan skin, as if the device itself was responding to the impending crisis. For a brief moment, he could almost sense the echoes of his previous existence, Ben Tennyson's voice whispering across dimensions. It's hero time. Chapter 2. Fractured Reflections. Water embraced Zenith as he descended into the abyssal depths of Aquavorta, a planet whose surface was 98.7% oceanic. His current form, Hydrovoid, moved through the crushing pressure with effortless grace. Bioluminescent patterns rippling across translucent skin that adapted instantaneously to the changing conditions. Unlike Ben Tennyson's Ripjaws, this aquatic transformation represented evolutionary perfection. No weaknesses, no limitations, only seamless integration with the liquid environment. Pressure differential stabilizing at 16,000 atmospheres, announced a melodic voice beside him. The trench's biometric signature intensifies 300 meters ahead. Zenith turned toward his guide, NAIA Waters, the foremost xenobiologist in the Andromeda galaxy. Her amphibious physiology appeared deceptively delicate, her body semi-transparent with an iridescent shimmer that revealed complex circulatory and nervous systems adapted for both aquatic and terrestrial environments. Bioluminescent markings across her skin pulsed with a rhythm that matched the surrounding deep-sea creatures, a natural camouflage that doubled as communication. The celestial Sapian residue readings are strongest at the convergence point of 3 underwater currents, NAIA continued, her webbed hands gracefully manipulating holographic data projections generated from her biotech implants. Ocean currents mirror cosmic streams, flowing patterns of energy and matter that transport fundamental building blocks across vast distances. This trench isn't merely a geographic feature. It's an interdimensional watershed where realities seep into one another. 3 days had passed since the confrontation on Galvan Prime. Azmuth's detection algorithm had identified NAIA as the third potential champion in Albedo's convergence scheme, her unique genetic structure containing markers that appeared across multiple realities. Locating her hadn't been difficult. Her research expedition to Aqua Vorta had been widely documented in scientific circles, but convincing her to assist had proven unexpectedly simple. I've observed anomalous genetic drift patterns in 17 species across 12 planets, she'd explained when Zenith and Lyra had first approached her. Each instance correlated with dimensional fluctuations that briefly altered baseline reality parameters. Something is changing the fundamental building blocks of life across the multiverse, and it ripples outward like waves from a pebble dropped into still water. Now they descended into darkness that would have been impenetrable to most species. Zenith's enhanced senses detected subtle shifts in the water pressure, minuscule temperature variations, and the faint electromagnetic signature. Of creatures evolved to thrive in eternal night. The artifacts should be directly ahead, NAIA said, her voice carrying perfectly through the dense water. Discovered by Deep Trench explorers last cycle, untouched since initial scanning revealed temporal instability markers. The artifacts materialized gradually from the gloom, 7 obsidian monoliths arranged in a perfect circle, their surface etched with symbols identical to those found on the chronolith in the Pyronite temple. Each structure rose 30 meters from the ocean floor, embedded in sediment that carbon dating had established as predating the planet's current continental configuration. Remarkable, Zenith breathed, approaching the nearest monolith. These match the symbols from Pyros exactly. Pattern recognition confirmed, came Lyra's voice through their communication system. She remained aboard their vessel with Ember, monitoring from above. Symbols match Pyros' chronological sequence with 99.8% accuracy. Diverge. NCE falls within acceptable measurement error parameters. NAIA swam gracefully toward the center of the circle, her bioluminescence dimming respectfully. These structures aren't merely similar to Pyronite artifacts, they're quantum entangled with them. My preliminary scans detected synchronized particle behavior despite the 12 galaxy distance separating them. Zenith placed his transformed hand against the nearest monolith, feeling a subtle vibration resonating through his molecular structure. They're receiving a signal, or sending one. The ultimate Omnitrix is detecting Cronin particles in quantities that shouldn't be naturally possible. The abyssal waters around them suddenly rippled with unexpected currents as the monoliths began emitting a deep, subsonic hum that reverberated through the trench. Bioluminescent sea creatures scattered in panicked patterns, their lights creating a chaotic display against the abyssal darkness. Unprecedented activation sequence, NAIA observed, her scientific curiosity momentarily overriding caution as she moved closer to the center of the circle. The artifacts are responding to your presence, Zenith. Specifically to the Omnitrix's dimensional resonance pattern. Before he could respond, the water between the monoliths began to shimmer, molecular cohesion breaking down as space-time itself thinned. Unlike the violent dimensional tears created by Albedo's hunter, this distortion formed with almost artistic precision, reality folding like origami to create a viewing portal rather than a traversable breach. Through this dimensional window, they witnessed fragmentary scenes from multiple realities, Ben Tennyson in countless variations, younger, older, alternate versions where key life decisions had created branching timelines. Some wore Omnitrixes of unfamiliar design. Others wielded powers without any visible device. A few appeared entirely human yet radiated unusual energy signatures. Dimensional catalog, Zenith realized. His voice barely audible over the subsonic humming. These monoliths are monitoring Ben Tennyson across all possible realities. Not monitoring, NAIA corrected, her eyes wide as data streamed across her biotech display. Protecting. These structures generate a dimensional dampening field that makes detection more difficult. They're hiding certain timelines from external observation. The implications struck Zenith with sudden clarity. They're shielding potential targets from Albedo's hunters. The Celestial Sapiens created these structures as multiversal safeguards. As if responding to his understanding, the dimensional window shifted focus, displaying a scene that made Zenith's breath catch. An elderly human woman with silver-streaked red hair and luminescent purple eyes sitting beside a man with rugged features and arms bearing metallic implants. Despite their advanced age, Zenith recognized them instantly, Gwen Tennyson and Kevin Levin, decades older than when Ben had last seen them. Gwen and Kevin, he whispered. Memories from his previous existence flooding his consciousness. They survived in this timeline. NAIA moved beside him, her expression softening from scientific curiosity to empathy. You know these humans personally. In another life, Zenith replied quietly. They were family. The dimensional window pulsed once, then collapsed as the monoliths, humming intensified to a painful degree. Naya's biotech displays flashed urgent warnings seconds before the water around them began to boil despite the crushing pressure and near-freezing temperature. Dimensional incursion imminent, she announced, abandoning scientific detachment for urgent alarm. Multiple breach points forming simultaneously. Zenith didn't hesitate. Get back to the surface immediately. I'll contain whatever's coming through. Quote, negative, NAIA responded firmly, surprising him. These artifacts activated for both of us. The champion convergence requires my presence as much as yours. Before he could argue, the water between monoliths erupted with kinetic energy as five-dimensional tiers formed simultaneously. Unlike Albedo's mechanical hunter, these breaches disgorged organic Bay NGS, nightmarish hybrids of multiple species bearing cybernetic enhancements and weapons of obvious interdimensional origin. Bounty hunters, Zenith identified, initiating transformation sequence. Specialized in cross-dimensional tracking. Quote, emerald light engulfed him underwater, reconstructing his molecular structure into Leviathan, a massive serpentine form with armored scales and bioelectric offensive capabilities. This transformation, unknown to Ben Tennyson, represented Zenith's deeper understanding of genetic potential within the Omnitrix database. The lead hunter, a tetraman amphibian, hybrid with additional cybernetic limbs, activated a scanning device that projected red targeting beams through the water. Target identified. Zenith of Galvan Prime. Secondary target. NAIA of Aqueous 12. Bounty parameters. Retrieval of genetic material and neural patterns. Lethal force authorized. Leviathan's massive tail whipped through water with impossible speed, creating a pressure wave. That slammed two hunters against the nearest monolith. You picked the wrong ocean. Zenith's transformed voice boomed, the sound traveling through water molecules with devastating force. The remaining G-hunters dispersed with coordinated precision, their movements suggesting extensive combat experience against powerful opponents. Their weapons fired concentrated plasma bolts that superheated the surrounding water, creating steam pockets that disrupted visibility. NAIA, rather than retreating, moved with surprising agility. Her bioluminescent patterns shifted to a combat configuration unseen until now, emitting pulses of bioelectric energy that disrupted the hunters' cybernetic systems on contact. Amphibious defense mechanisms aren't exclusively evolutionary, she explained, demonstrating unexpected combat prowess. Some of us study offensive adaptations across species. Practical xenobiology. Through their communication link, Lyra's voice came urgently. Multiple dimensional signatures detected approaching your location. Ember and I are initiating emergency descent to provide support. Maintain defensive position for 7 minutes, 18 seconds. The hunters regrouped, their Ader activating additional cybernetic enhancements that transformed its entire right arm into a dimensional phase cannon. Resistance exceeds initial parameters. implementing secondary extraction protocol. The weapon discharged, not at Zenith or NAIA, but at the monoliths themselves. The dimensional stabilizers embedded within the ancient structures began to fracture, releasing waves of chronon particles that distorted local space-time. They're trying to collapse the protective field. NAIA realized, her biotech displays flashing critical warnings. If these monoliths are destroyed, every Eldad Ben Tennyson variant becomes visible to Albedo's hunters. Zenith transformed again, this time into Quantum Fold, a being capable of manipulating dimensional boundaries at a subatomic level. Focus on the hunters, he instructed NAIA. I'll stabilize the monoliths. Extending consciousness across dimensional planes required perfect concentration, a skill Zenith had refined through years of training with Azmuth. His transformed state allowed him to perceive the intricate quantum threads connecting these monoliths to others across multiple realities, forming a protective web of incalculable complexity. As he worked to repair the dimensional damage, NAIA engaged the hunters with unexpected effectiveness. Her natural affinity for water allowed her to manipulate currents into devastating RTICES that disoriented their targeting systems, while her bioluminescent pulses disrupted their communication network. Their cybernetic components share a unified control frequency, she observed clinically. Despite the intensity of combat, aquatic species develop harmonized communication systems to overcome water's tendency to disperse signals. These hunters operate on similar principles. Exploiting this insight, she concentrated her bioluminescent pulses into a specific frequency that created a cascading failure across their cybernetic networks. Two hunters immediately convulsed as their enhancements malfunctioned, power systems overloading in brilliant underwater explosions. The remaining three, including their leader, switched to backup systems and changed tactics. Instead of attacking directly, they deployed dimensional anchor devices, specialized weapons designed to lock targets into a single reality plane, preventing interdimensional movement or transformation. Omnitrix suppression field detected. The ultimate Omnitrix warned as Zenith felt his connection to alternate forms weakening. Countermeasures engaged. Transformation capability reduced to 73% efficiency. The limitation couldn't have come at a worse moment. With his concentration divided between stabilizing the monoliths and maintaining his current form, Zenith found himself vulnerable to He Leader's sudden attack, a precisely aimed neutronic charge that struck with stunning force. Pain exploded across his consciousness as the blast disrupted his transformed state, forcing an involuntary reversion to his Galvan form. In the crushing oceanic depths, even his enhanced Galvan physiology struggled to adapt quickly enough, pressure threatening to compress his body beyond sustainable limits. NAIA reacted instantly, swimming to his position and enveloping him in a biologically generated protective membrane. Pressure equalization stabilizing, she announced, her voice strained as she extended her natural adaptations to include him, maintaining internal atmospheric integrity at sustainable levels. The hunter leader approached, weapons primed for final extraction. Resistance futile, genetic sampling commencing. A blinding flash of superheated plasma suddenly illuminated the abyssal darkness as ember pyros descended through the water, her pyronite form generating an impossible bubble of superheated plasma that maintained integrity despite the surrounding pressure. Within this elemental contradiction, she moved with deadly grace, royal blue flames extending into precision strikes that severed the hunters, cybernetic enhancements with surgical precision. Flame exists even in the deepest oceans, she declared, her voice carrying through the plasma bubble. Ancient Pyrone. Taze learned to harness the fundamental opposition between elements, not merely control a single state. Simultaneously, Lyra emerged from a controlled dimensional micro-jump, her specialized armor adapting instantly to deep-sea conditions. Her movements displayed the precision timing unique to her chronosapien hybrid nature, each action calculated to intersect with the hunters, movements at exactly the right microsecond. Countermeasures deployed, she stated calmly, firing her chrono-stabilizer at precisely calibrated intervals. Hunter combat capabilities reduced by 62% and declining. Extraction probability approaching 0. The combined assault from three directions overwhelmed the remaining hunters. Their leader attempted a desperate final gambit, activating an emergency dimensional recall that began tearing reality around them, threatening to drag everything within range back to its point of origin. Dimensional collapse imminent, Lyra warned, her chronometric implants pulsing urgently. Recall vortex integrity increasing exponentially. Evacuation impossible within safe parameters. Zenith, still weakened from the neutronic blast, forced his Galvan mind to process alternatives at accelerated speed. The monoliths, he realized. Their celestial sapient origin gives them dimensional priority. If we can amplify their natural resonance pattern, we can override the recall vortex, NAIA finished. Already manipulating her biotech controls to interface with the ancient structures. But we need a catalyst, something with sufficient dimensional mass to trigger the reaction. Ember's flames intensified as understanding dawned. The chronolith fragments in my ceremonial dagger. They share quantum entanglement with these monoliths. Without hesitation, she removed an ornate dagger from her royal regalia, its blade containing crystalline fragments that pulsed with colors beyond normal perception. Swimming to the center of the monolith circle, she plunged the dagger into the ocean floor. Royal blue flames spreading along quantum pathways invisible to normal perception. The effect was immediate and spectacular. The monoliths responded to the chronolith fragments, their subsonic humming aligning into perfect harmonic convergence. Dimensional energy cascaded between them, creating a stabilizing field that systematically unraveled the hunter's recall vortex. Dimensional harmonics stabilizing, Lyra confirmed, her implants tracking the collapse and restoration of local reality. Hunter recall sequence terminated, threat neutralized, as the dimensional distortions faded, leaving only the natural darkness of the abyssal trench. Zenith slowly recovered his strength. NAIA maintained her protective membrane around him, her expression revealing both scientific fascination and genuine concern. Your biological responses are remarkable, she observed, professional interest mingling with something warmer in her voice. Even in Galvan form, you adapted to pressure changes that would crush ordinary specimens. The Omnitrix influence extends beyond mere transformation. A consequence of prolonged integration, Zenith explained, grateful for her assista. NCE but eager to assess the monolith's condition. The ultimate Omnitrix doesn't just enable transformation, it optimizes the host's natural capabilities. Ember approached, her plasma bubble maintaining perfect integrity despite contradicting fundamental laws of physics and chemistry. The hunters were better prepared this time, she noted gravely. Their weapons specifically targeted your transformation capabilities. And they knew exactly where to find us, Lyra added, already running analytical scans of the dissipating dimensional energies. Probability of random encounter, effectively zero. They were waiting for us to locate these artifacts. NAIA gestured toward the monoliths, which had returned to dormant state but now emitted a subtle luminescence visible only in specific light spectrums. These structures didn't just react to our presence, they reacted specifically to the combination of Zenith's Omnitrix signature and my genetic pattern. The underwater location is significant as well. Water, Zenith realized, memories from his previous existence emerging with sudden clarity. Ben Tennyson's first transformation was Ripjaw's, an aquatic form. These monoliths correspond to key moments in his evolutionary timeline. Quote, the dimensional window between monoliths reappeared, this time with perfect clarity despite the crushing depths. The image stabilized to show Earth, specifical LYA location instantly recognizable to Zenith. Bellwood, decades after Ben Tennyson's sacrifice. Coordinates locked, Lyra announced, checking her temporal instruments. Earth Temporal Alignment Conference, earned. 63 years after the restoration event. Location, Tennyson family residence, North American continent. Zenith stared at the image, emotions from another lifetime stirring within his Galvan consciousness. Gwen and Kevin, they're still there. The next champions, Ember suggested, flames flickering thoughtfully. No, Zenith replied with certainty. Something else. The monoliths are, NT just showing us random connections, they're creating a map. Each location corresponds to a piece of the larger puzzle. NAIA finished interfacing with the ancient structures, her biotech displays RG-anizing massive data streams into coherent patterns. These artifacts contain dimensional coordinates for 5 additional locations across different realities. Each appears connected to specific evolutionary moments in Ben Tennyson's timeline. Lyra's expression remained professionally neutral, but her voice softened slightly. Your former family may possess crucial information unavailable elsewhere. Temporal evidence suggests they continued investigating dimensional phenomena after the restoration event. Zenith nodded, decision crystallizing. We need to visit Earth. If albedo is targeting specific genetic patterns across dimensions, Gwen and Kevin would be natural targets, or resources. As they prepared to return to the surface, NAIA released her protective membrane around Zenith but remained close. Her bioluminescent patterns shifting to express complex emotions difficult to verbalize. I've studied evolutionary patterns my entire life, she said softly, but never encountered anything like you, Zenith. A consciousness transferred across dimensional boundaries, preserving core personality traits while adapting to entirely new biology. I'm still trying to understand it myself, he admitted with rare vulnerability. Sometimes I remember being human so vividly I can almost feel it physically. Other times, my Galvan perspective makes those memories seem like watching someone else's life. The duality doesn't diminish either aspect, she observed insightfully. Water takes countless forms, liquid, solid, vapor, yet remains fundamentally water throughout each transformation. Your consciousness maintains its essential nature regardless of physical manifestation. Something in her perspective resonated deeply, offering a framework for understanding his dual existence. Neither Azmuth's scientific explanations nor his own internal contemplation had provided. Before he could respond, however, Lyra's urgent voice interrupted through their communication system. Multi-PLE dimensional breaches detected in orbit. Pattern matches albedo's technology signature. We need to depart immediately. With one last look at the ancient monoliths, Zenith transformed into Hydrovoid once more, leading their ascent toward the surface and their waiting vessel. As they rose through progressively lightening waters, NAIA remained beside him, her natural bioluminescence illuminating their path through the darkness. Earth's familiar blue-white sphere greeted them as their ship emerged from dimensional transit in high orbit. Despite technological advances that had transformed human civilization in the decades since Ben Tennyson's sacrifice, the planet retained its essential character, fragile, beautiful, and remarkably resilient. For Zenith, seeing Earth stirred complex emotions. Though born as a Galvan in his current existence, the human memories of Ben Tennyson provided a connection that transcended mere historical knowledge. This was home in ways that defied logical explanation. Atmospheric composition shows significant improvement from historical records, NAIA observed from her specialized aquatic chamber aboard their vessel. Oceanic microplastic concentration reduced by 78%. Oxygen levels stabilized at optimal parameters. Humans have become better caretakers. The restoration event changed their perspective, Ember explained, her flames car. Fully regulated within the ship's controlled environment. When an alien saved your entire reality at the cost of his own existence, it tends to inspire better stewardship. Lyra monitored their approach from the command station, her chronometric implants interfacing directly with the ship's temporal shielding. Detection avoidance protocols active. Earth's dimensional sensors are remarkably advanced for this development stage, but they cannot penetrate our chronometric displacement field. The ship descended through the atmosphere with perfect precision, its advanced cloaking technology rendering it invisible to Earth's monitoring systems. Below, the familiar landscape of Bellwood came into view, though significantly changed from Ben Tennyson's memories. Where a modest suburban community had once existed, a harmonious blend of human and alien architecture now stretched across the valley. Gleaming spires incorporated living plant systems, transportation networks operated on zero-emission quantum principles, and public spaces featured memorials to the heroes who had defended Earth during countless crises. At the center of it all stood a modest structure that seemed deliberately preserved against time's passage, the original Tennyson family home, now surrounded by a beautiful garden sanctuary. Landing sequence initiated, Lyra announced. Dimensional anchor points established. Probability of detection by Earth's security systems below measurable threshold. As they prepared to disembark, Zenith transformed into a human form, not Ben Tennyson's appearance, but a thoughtfully Daisy GNED alternative that carried subtle echoes of his previous existence without risking immediate recognition. Average height, brown hair, green eyes that remained his most distinctive feature across any form. Is that necessary? Ember asked, observing the transformation with curious interest. Earth has normalized alien presence for decades. This isn't about blending in, Zenith explained, examining his transformed hands with strange familiarity. It's about emotional preparation, for them and for me. Understanding dawned in her fiery eyes. You're cushioning the shock. Appearing as Galvin M. I'd be too jarring for those who knew Ben Tennyson intimately. Precisely, he acknowledged. Human form allows for gradual revelation rather than immediate confrontation with the full truth. They approached the Tennyson residence on foot, the garden path lined with flowers from across the galaxy, each species selected for symbolic significance rather than mere aesthetic appeal. Memorabilia fro. Ben 10's adventures appeared throughout the garden, subtle tributes rather than ostentatious displays. Before they reached the door, it opened to reveal an elderly woman with silver-streaked red hair and remarkably clear, intelligent eyes that still held hints of their original vivid purple. Despite her advanced age, Gwendolyn Tennyson carried herself with dignity and unmistakable power. I sense your dimensional approach 20 minutes ago, she stated matter-of-factly, her gaze immediately fixing on Zenith's transformed human appearance. Your shielding is impressive but couldn't tell. Why mask the anodite energy ripples your transition created? She stepped aside, gesturing them inward with a graceful movement that belied her years. Kevin is in the study. He's been expecting you sin. The chronolith network activated yesterday. Zenith froze momentarily, Ben's memories surging forward with unexpected emotional force. You know about the chronoliths. A small smile crossed Gwen's lined face. We've had 63 years to continue the work, you know. Did you think we just retired and stopped caring about the multiverse after you saved it? The casual, you, wasn't lost on Zenith or his companions. Before anyone could comment, Gwen turned and walked inside, clearly expecting them to follow. The interior of the Tennyson home balanced preservation of important memories with practical modernization. Historical photographs lined walls alongside advanced dimensional monitoring equipment. In the center of what had once been a living room stood a holographic projection system, displaying real-time data from multiple realities. Kevin Levin sat before this display, his once dark hair now completely silver, muscular frame still impressive despite advanced age. The metallic plants along his arms had evolved over decades, now appearing as elegant silver tracery that enhanced rather than marked him. Took you long enough, he commented without turning, fingers manipulating holographic controls with practiced ease. We detected the first dimensional hunter 16 months ago. Figured someone would eventually trace the pattern back to us. When he finally turned to face them, his expression remained impressively controlled upon seeing Zenith's human form, though something flashed briefly in his eyes. Recognition, perhaps, or simply practiced stoicism honed through decades of extraordinary experiences. So, Kevin said, crossing his arms, Azmuth finally decided to send his son to visit the relics. Zenith stepped forward, maintaining his human appearance but allowing his voice to carry more of his natural Galvin inflection. I don't think you're relics, Kevin. And I suspect you know exactly why we're here. The older man's facade cracked slightly, a familiar half-smile emerging. Still direct as ever, even with Galvin DNA rewriting your attitude. Some things never change, no matter how many times you get reincarnated. Gwen moved to stand beside her husband, her hand resting lightly on his shoulder. We've been monitoring the dimensional extractions since they began. Albedo's bounty hunters have been systematically harvesting Ben Tennyson variants Acro. SS the multiverse, but you already know that. What you may not know, Kevin continued, is that it's not random. He's targeting specific genetic expressions and memory patterns, moments when Ben made crucial choices that defined his development as a hero. Lyra stepped forward, her professional demeanor momentarily set aside in the presence of such unexpected information sources. You've been tracking the pattern independently, without Galvin or Plummer resources. Kevin's smile widened to a full grin. Lady, when you've spent a lifetime hanging around Tennyson's, you pick up a few tricks. Plus, being married to an anodite with dimensional sensing capabilities helps. Gwen gestured toward their monitoring equipment. After the restoration, I dedicated myself to understanding the dimensional aftermath. The multiverse restructured itself around Ben's sacrifice, creating new boundary conditions and stability parameters. The chronolith network, Zenith realized. You helped establish it. Not exactly, Gwen corrected. The Celestial Sapiens created it as a monitoring system. We discovered it accidentally during an investigation 20 years ago and have been using it to track dimensional incursions ever since. NAIA, who had remained quiet while absorbing the unfamiliar environment, moved closer to examine the holographic display. These patterns correspond exactly to the genetic drift anomalies I've been documenting. Each extraction creates ripple effects across connecting timelines. Gwen nodded appreciatively at the observation. Exactly. The multiverse isn't comprised of isolated realities, it's an interconnected ecosystem where changes in one dimension affect countless others. By removing key Ben Tennysons from their native timelines, Albedo is systematically unraveling the stability the restoration created. Quote, but why? Ember asked, her royal blue flames flickering thoughtfully. What purpose could destroying multiversal stability serve? Kevin manipulated the holographic controls, bringing up a three-dimensional model of what appeared to be an Omnitrix variant unlike any they had seen before. Because destruction isn't his goal. Recreation is. This is what he's building, the anti-Omnitrix. The device rotating in holographic display bore superficial resemblance to the Omnitrix but incorporated disturbing biological components that appeared to pulse with life. Its structure seemed designed to integrate directly with the wielder's nervous system rather than remain an external tool. Unlike the Omnitrix, which samples and replicates DNA, this device is designed to absorb and incorporate genetic material directly, Kevin explained. Albedo isn't just collecting samples, he's harvesting the essential nature of Ben Tennyson from across multiple timelines. To create a perfect version, Zenith concluded grimly, one without the human limitations or moral constraints that frustrated him in his original plans. Gwen nodded solemnly. Precisely. By extracting specific genetic expressions and memory patterns from different variants, he can theoretically construct a being with all of Ben's potential but none of his weaknesses, compassion, self-doubt, human connections. A Ben Tennyson who would use the Omnitrix exactly as Albedo believes it should be used, Kevin added, disgust evident in his voice. Lyra studied the holographic schematics with professional detachment. Current completion status. Based on our tracking, he's acquired 7 of the 10 genetic signatures he needs, Gwen replied, bringing up a display showing dimensional coordinates where extractions had already occurred. The remaining 3 are proving more difficult to obtain. Because they're in our dimension, Zenith realized. Protected by the restoration event's unique parameters. Kevin nodded. Your dimension exists at what we call a terminal branch, a reality endpoint created by a sacrifice so significant it restructured multiversal constants. Albedo can't simply breach it like the others. He needs to be invited in. Which explains the bounty hunters, Ember observed. They're not just collectors, they're advanced forces attempting to create stable breach points. NAIA had been examining the holographic schematics of the anti-Omnitrix with increasing concern. This design incorporates biological components that suggest capability beyond mere transformation. If completed successfully, this device could rewrite dimensional constants across the entire multiverse. Exactly, Gwen confirmed. It's not just a weapon, it's a reality reconfiguration tool. With it, Albedo could establish himself as the multiversal constant instead of Ben. A heavy silence fell as the full implications became clear. Zenith felt the weight of 2 lifetimes pressing upon Ben Tennyson's sacrifice that had restored reality, and his current existence dedicated to protecting that restoration. There's more, Kevin said after a moment, his expression darkening. We think we've identified the remaining champions Albedo needs to complete his work. One is obvious, he gestured toward Zenith. You carry the prime template, the original Ben Tennyson's consciousness in a Galvan body. I've already been identified as another, Ember stated, her royal blue flames flickering. The Pyronite chronolith reacted specifically to my royal bloodline, and my unique genetic structure represents another component. NAIA added, her bioluminescence pulsing thoughtfully. Gwen nodded. 3 confirmed. Based on our analysis of the extracted patterns, the remaining champion muse possess phase-shifting capabilities, the ability to move between dimensions naturally, without technological assistance. That narrows the possibilities considerably, Lyra noted, her chronometric implants processing the information. Only 17 known species possess natural dimensional phase-shifting abilities, and most are extinct or critically endangered. Kevin manipulated the holographic display again, bringing up a star map with a specific sector highlighted. Our dimensional sensors detected unusual phase-shifting activity in the quantum void region 3 months ago. We dispatched probes but lost contact as soon as they entered the area. The quantum void is dimensionally unstable by definition, Zenith observed, his scientific knowledge complementing Ben's memories of the mysterious region. Most technology fails there due to conflicting reality parameters, which makes it perfect for someone avoiding interdimensional detection, Gwen pointed out. We believe the fourth champion is hiding there deliberately, aware of Albedo's hunting pattern. Before they could discuss further, the holographic display flashed urgent warnings as multiple dimensional breaches began forming in orbit around Earth. Unlike previous incursions, these breaches exhibited precise mathematical spacing, a coordinated attack pattern. Dimensional containment protocols initiated, Gwen announced calmly, activating defense systems integrated throughout the residence. Earth's perimeter defenses are responding, but these breach patterns are designed to bypass standard countermeasures. Kevin moved with surprising agility for his age, accessing weapons systems that emerged from concealed compartments. They're not subtle this time. Full invasion force, multiple entry points. Lyra's Kron, Omnitrix implants pulsed rapidly as she interfaced with their ship's systems remotely. Breach configuration indicates specialized extraction team. Target acquisition priority. This location specifically. They're not after random Ben Tennysons anymore, Zenith realized with sudden clarity. They're after you too. Gwen and Kevin's genetic material and memories would complete significant portions of Albedo's understanding. We've been expecting this day for decades, Gwen replied with remarkable composure, purple energy beginning to shimmer around her hands as her anodite heritage manifested despite her age. Why do you think we never left Bellwood? Kevin placed his hand on a seemingly ordinary wall section, absorbing its material properties into his body, a power he had refined to remarkable precision over decades. Home field advantage, he explained with a grim smile as his body transformed into an advanced composite material far stronger than ordinary steel. Outside, the sky darkened. As dimensional breaches materialized in precise formation. Through the residence's windows, they could see mechanical hunters similar to the one they had encountered on Pyros descending toward them, dozens of them. Each more heavily armed than the last. Defensive positions, Zenith instructed, the tactical strategist in him immediately assessing options. Ember, establish perimeter containment with plasma barriers. NAIA, your bioluminescent disruption field can interfere with their targeting systems. Lyra, coordinate temporal countermeasures. As his companions moved to their positions, Zenny, initiated transformation sequence. Emerald light reconfiguring his human appearance into Chronivore, a time-manipulating entity capable of creating localized stasis fields. This form, another evolutee, honorary development beyond Ben's original aliens, represented temporal mastery beyond anything the original Omnitrix could have achieved. Gwen, Kevin, he said, his voice resonating with temporal harmonics, this is your home. You call the shots. The elderly couple exchanged a look that communicated decades of shared experience. Just like old times, Gwen said with a small smile. Kevin cracked his composite knuckles with anticipation. Except this time, you're shorter and greener under all that transformation stuff. The first wave of hunters breached the garden perimeter, mechanical appendage. Reconfiguring into weapons as they advanced. Ember's royal blue flames erupted in precisely calculated barriers, creating a labyrinth of plasma walls that forced the hunters into predictable approach vectors. Fire-shaped space, she declared, her diplomatic formality replaced by warrior's focus. Ancient Pyronites understood that flames need not merely destroy, they can create boundaries, define territories. Establish order amidst chaos. NAIA positioned herself near the residence's water features, manipulating the moisture to create a fine mist that diffused throughout the battlefield. Within this mist, her bioluminescent pulses disrupted the hunters' sensors while simultaneously providing their team with a communication medium invisible to mechanical detection. Aquatic species develop bioluminescence for both concealment and communication, she explained, her scientific knowledge perfectly applied to tactical advantage. Light wavelengths propagate differently through water molecules than through air, creating natural encryption patterns. Lyra moved with precise efficiency, her chronostabilizer weapon firing bursts that trapped individual hunters in localized temporal stasis. Target immobilization at coordinates Alpha 7, Beta 3, and Gamma 9, she reported. Temporal containment effectiveness, 84% and holding. The coordinated defense proved remarkably effective against the first wave, but the hunters adapted quickly, their mechanical bodies reconfiguring based on observed resistance patterns. The second wave approached with countermeasures already in place. Anti-plasma fields neutralizing Ember's barriers, sensor systems calibrated to filter out Naya's disruption frequencies, and temporal shielding resistant to Lyra's stasis fields. They're evolving their tactics, Kevin observed, absorbing a more advanced material from a concealed weapons cache. Just like Albedo to program them with adaptive learning algorithms. Gwen's anodite powers had grown more refined with age, her experience compensating for any physical limitations. With elegant gestures, she created mana constructs of remarkable complexity, not just shields and platforms, but intricate spell-weaving matrices that bound dimensional energy itself. I've spent 63 years studying interdimensional magic, she explained, centuries of anodite knowledge evident in her precise incantations. The boundaries between science, magic, and dimensional physics become meaningless at sufficient levels of understanding. Zenith coordinated their defense with tactical precision, his chronivore form allowing him to perceive attack patterns seconds before they developed. Despite their effective resistance, however, the hunters' numbers presented an inevitable statistical problem, eventually. Probability favored the attackers through sheer volume. The turning point came when a specialized hunter breached their perimeter from below, tunneling through dimensional Spock. Eta emerged directly in the center of their formation. Before anyone could react, it deployed a quantum suppression field that momentarily disrupted all energy-based abilities within range. In that critical moment of vulnerability, 3 hunters targeted Gwen and Kevin specifically, firing specialized containment fields designed to extract genetic material and neural patterns without physical transportation of the targets. The elderly couple found themselves enveloped in energy fields that began the extraction process immediately, drawing luminous strands of genetic information from their bodies. "Gwen," Kevin shouted, struggling against the extraction field while reaching toward his wife. "DNA extraction sequence at 47% completion," announced the lead hunter, its mechanical voice devoid of emotion. "Neural pattern acquisition initiating." Zenith transformed again, shifting to resonance, a form capable of manipulating energy fields at their fundamental frequency. Reaching into the extraction fields, he attempted to disrupt their harmonic pattern, but the hunters had anticipated this strategy. The fields adapted instantly, shifting frequencies faster than he could counter. "Cannot maintain resistance," Gwen gasped, her anodite powers flickering as the extraction drained her energy. "Zenith, the chronolith network, activation sequence." Understanding FL, ashed between them, the chronolith network could be activated as a defensive measure, potentially disrupting the hunters' dimensional connection to Albedo. But the activation required specific genetic markers from all 4 confirmed champions simultaneously. "Everyone to my position," Zenith called, transforming back to his Galvan form to access the ultimate Omnitrix's full interface capabilities. "Ember, NAIA, we need to establish direct connection." The 2 champions fought their way through mechanical hunters to reach him, forming a defensive triangle around Gwen and Kevin. The extraction Phi LDS had already siphoned critical genetic information, but the neural pattern acquisition, the more valuable component for Albedo's purposes, remained incomplete. "What's the plan?" Ember demanded, her royal flames burning at maximum intensity to hold back the advancing mechanical forces. "The ultimate Omnitrix can interface with the chronolith network through our combined genetic signatures," Zenith explained rapidly, fingers working across the device's neural interface. "But we need the 4th champion to complete the circuit." "Impossible," Lyra stated flatly, continuing to provide covering fire as she retreated to their position. "4th champion location unknown. Activation sequence cannot be completed with only 3 connection points." As if in response to her statement, reality rippled directly above them. Unlike the violent breaches created by Albedo's hunters, this dimensional opening formed with elegant precision, reality folding aside like a curtain being gently drawn. Through this perfectly formed passage stepped a figure that seemed to exist partially out of phase with normal space-time. Tall and lithe, with skin that shifted between obsidian black and translucent like smoky quartz. The newcomer moved with liquid grace. Silver markings across their body pulsed with dimensional energy, while eyes like miniature galaxies surveyed the chaotic battlefield with calm assessment. Most distinctive was their relationship with physical space. Parts of their body occasionally phased completely out of visibility before reappearing, as if they existed simultaneously in multiple dimensions. 4 champions, 1 convergence point, infinite possibilities branching outward, they announced in a melodious voice that seemed to echo from multiple sources simultaneously. I am Vex. I walk between realities. Your distress ripples across dimensional boundaries, creating patterns impossible to ignore. Without waiting for introduction or explanation, Vex moved to complete their circle. Placing a phase-shifting hand atop the ultimate Omnitrix. The chronolith network awaits activation. 4 genetic keys unlock the dimensional safeguard. I provide the 4th resonance frequency. Zenith didn't question this timely arrival. Dimensional entities often perceived patterns and connections invisible to linear beings. With all 4 champions connected, he initiated the activation sequence. The ultimate Omnitrix pulsing with emerald energy that flowed through their connected forms. Chronolith network activation sequence initiated, the device announced. Dimensional coordinates locked, calibrating interdimensional resonance frequency. The hunters redoubled their efforts to stop the activation, mechanical bodies converging on their position from all directions. Lyra maintai, Ned defensive suppression fire while Kevin, still partially affected by the extraction field, fought with determination born of decades defending Earth against impossible threats. Hurry, Gwen urged, her weakened voice betraying the extraction's toll on her energy reserves. The neural pattern acquisition is approaching critical threshold. Energy built within their connected circle, the combined genetic resonance of 4 champions creating a dimensional harmony that extended outward at quantum levels. Across multiple realities, the chronolith structures activated simultaneously, on Pyros, beneath Aqua Vorta's oceans. Within the quantum void, and at 11 other locations scattered throughout the multiverse. The activation manifested as a cascading wave of emerald energy that expanded outward from their position. Intersecting with the hunters, dimensional connections to their control source. As the wave passed through each mechanical entity, their systems faltered, connections severing. As the chronolith network established a dimensional firewall between realities. Connection to control source terminated, announced the lead hunter, its voice degrading into static. Emergency protocols initiated. Dimensional recall sequence activated. The extraction fields surrounding Gwen and Kevin destabilized as the hunters began emergency dimensional withdrawal, their mechanical bodies dissolving into component particles that scattered into rapidly collapsing breaches. Within moments, the invasion force had retreated completely, leaving only scattered mechanical components and disturbed Earth as evidence of their attack. Vex removed their hand from the ultimate Omnitrix, silver markings pulsing with residual energy from the activation. Chronolith network will maintain dimensional barricade for approximately 73 hours before albedo identifies bypass parameters. Temporary security established. Zenith turned to Gwen and Kevin, concern evident in his large galvan eyes. How much did they get? Gwen leaned against her husband, visibly exhausted but alert. Genetic samples nearly complete. Neural patterns, partial. They acquired memories and knowledge, but not complete personality matrices. Which means albedo can analyze our abilities and experiences, Kevin translated grimly, but can't replicate our decision-making processes or emotional responses. Tactical advantage maintained. Lyra assessed professionally, though her voice carried subtle undertones of relief. Personality matrices contain critical behavioral variables necessary for accurate prediction and replication. NAIA moved to examine Gwen with her biotech sensors, professional concern overriding unfamiliarity. Cellular degradation minimal. Anodite energy reserves depleted but regenerating at sustainable rates. Recovery probable with proper care. Ember secured the perimeter with contained flame barriers, her royal blue fire creating protective boundaries around the damaged property. We cannot remain here. Earth remains vulnerable to secondary attack vectors. Agreed, Zenith said, returning to his human form to help Kevin support Gwen. We need to evacuate to a more secure location. The quantum void, Vex suggested, their form shifting partially in and out of phase as they spoke. My dimensional pocket exists outside normal space-time coordinates. Albedo's hunters cannot penetrate its unique phase variance without precise calibration. Kevin looked skeptical. No offense, but we just met you. Why should we trust you with our safety? Vex's galaxy-like eyes seemed to look through rather than at Kevin. Trust remains irrelevant when probability collapses to single outcome. All alternative pathways lead to capture or death within 8 hours. My dimensional sanctuary offers 97% survival probability. They're right, Lyra confirmed after consulting her chronometric implants. Dimensional incursion patterns suggest coordinated secondary attack forming. Estimated arrival: 7 hours. 23 minutes. Gwen studied Vex with her anodite senses, perceiving deeper patterns invisible to others. After a moment, she nodded. They're telling the truth. Their energy signature resonates with the same fundamental frequency as the chronolith network. One of the original architects, Vex acknowledged with a slight inclination of their head. I.O.B. serve dimensional constants across multiple reality branches. The current disruption threatens cosmic stability beyond this localized multiversal sector. Decision made, they quickly gathered S&T. AL equipment from the Tennyson residence, primarily data storage devices containing decades of multiversal research and monitoring. As they prepared to depart, Gwen paused to look back at the home she and Kevin had maintained for over 60 years. It was always temporary, she said with quiet acceptance. Everything is, when you understand dimensional time scales properly. Kevin placed a supportive arm around her shoulders. Hey, we lasted longer here than anyone expected. Not bad for the kid who used to try absorbing the Omnitrix for kicks and the nerdy cousin who lectured him about it. A.G. Host of a smile crossed Gwen's tired face. Some things never change, no matter how many dimensions you cross. As they boarded their vessel, Vex created a dimensional fold that enveloped the entire ship. Their silver markings pulsing with intense energy as they manipulated reality itself. Coordinates established. Phase variance calibrated. Prepare for transition to dimensional pocket. Unlike conventional dimensional travel with its disorienting transitions, Vex's method felt remarkably smooth, reality simply shifting around them like changing perspective rather than physical movement. The stars outside their viewport rippled once, then rearranged into unfamiliar patterns as ordinary space gave way to the quantum void. The dimensional pocket Vex had created existed as a stable bubble within the chaotic quantum foam that comprised this region of non-space. Inside, physics operated according to consistent rules, but the pocket remained completely detached from normal space-time, unplottable, unreachable without exact dimensional coordinates and phase variance parameters. Welcome to my observatory, Vex announced as their ship settled into a docking configuration with a structured T appeared to be constructed from solidified dimensional energy. From here, we monitor reality branches, observe convergence points, and track divergence patterns across the multiversal spectrum. The interior of Vex's sanctuary defied conventional architectural understanding. Spaces connected non-linearly, with rooms sometimes existing simultaneously in multiple configurations until observed from a specific angle. Throughout the structure, crystalline displays showed countless reality branches, some familiar, others wildly divergent from any recognizable universe. Impressive, NAIA commented, her scientific curiosity immediately engaged by the dimensional physics on display. You've created stable observation points without collapsing quantum probability states. Observation without interference, Vex confirmed, leading them to a central chamber where dimensional feeds converged in a holographic display of staggering complexity. Reality branches remain undisturbed by monitoring activities. Gwen, still weakened but recovering her strength, studied the displays with professional appreciation. This puts our monitoring system to shame. You're tracking at least 1,000 times more dimensional branches than we managed. Quote, 1,746 active reality streams, Vex confirmed. Plus 423 potential branches currently existing in probability state only. Kevin whistled appreciatively. No wonder Albedo wants your genetic material. With natural phase shifting abilities at this level, he could extend his control across the entire dimensional spectrum. Precisely why I remained in hiding, Vex explained, their form shifting partially out of phase as they manipulated the display to highlight specific dimensional coordinates. Until I observed your activation of the chronolith network and recognized the convergence pattern. The display shifted to show the locations of all 4 champions during significant moments of dimensional interaction. Zenith on Galvan Prime receiving the ultimate Omnitrix, Ember activating the Pyronite chronolith, NAIA discovering the underwater monoliths, and Vex observing reality branches from the quantum void. The pattern becomes clear when viewed across dimensional constants, Vex continued. 4 champions, each representing fundamental cosmic principles: transformation, energy, adaptation, and dimension. The same principles that governed Ben Tennyson's journey, Gwen realized, her anodite perceptions allowing her to recognize patterns beyond ordinary comprehension. His mastery of the Omnitrix required understanding all 4 elements. Zenith studied the display, memories from 2 lifetimes providing unique insight. Albedo never understood that. He saw the Omnitrix as merely a tool for transformation, not a nexus point for evolutionary potential across multiple dimensions. His fundamental error, Vex agreed. The anti-Omnitrix he constructs operates on flawed premise. Gathering genetic material and neural patterns without understanding the cosmic principles they represent will create unstable dimensional nexus. Unstable how? Lyra questioned, her analytical mind requiring precise parameters. Vex's galaxy eyes shifted to display mathematical symbols within their depths. Total dimensional collapse cascade. Reality branches folding into single point of infinite density. Multiversal heat death. The blunt assessment silenced them all momentarily. Ember's flames dimmed with the gravity of the situation, while Naya's bioluminescent patterns pulsed in distress signals. Lyra's chronometric implants processed probability calculations with increasing intensity, and Zenith felt the weight of 2 lifetimes bearing down upon his consciousness. So our options are clear, Kevin finally broke the silence. His pragmatic nature cutting through the existential dread. Either we stop Albedo from completing the anti-Omnitrix, or reality itself unravels. No pressure. Can we destroy what he's already built? Ember asked, royal blue flames intensifying with determination. A precise strike at his dimensional headquarters could potentially eliminate both the device and his collected samples. Vex shook their head, form rippling with the movement. Construction exists partially out of phase with normal space-time. Conventional attack impossible without precise dimensional coordinates. Which we don't have, NAIA concluded, her scientific mind already seeking alternatives. But perhaps we could create a countermeasure, a device that stabilizes dimensional constants regardless of Albedo's actions. The ultimate Omnitrix already contains such capabilities, Zenith revealed, drawing surprised looks from his companions. Azmuth incorporated dimensional stabilizat ion protocols as failsafe against catastrophic reality distortions. The unification protocol, Gwen stated with sudden understanding. That's what Azmuth was preparing you for. Total integration with the ultimate Omnitrix to access its full dimensional capabilities. Zenith nodded solemnly. The protocol would allow me to establish new dimensional constants that even the anti-Omnitrix couldn't override. But the process has never been tested, and the biological strain could be fatal. Lyra finished clinically, though her voice carried uncharacteristic emotion. Or worse than fatal, complete consciousness fragmentation across dimensional boundaries. There must be an alternative, Ember insisted, moving closer to Zenith with protective concern evident in her fiery eyes. Some way to defeat Albedo without such extreme measures. Vex studied the dimensional displays thoughtfully, their form shifting through multiple phase states as they considered possibilities. Perhaps, Albedo requires all 10 genetic signatures to create stable nexus point. Currently possesses 7, partially acquired 2 more from Tennyson Anodite and Osmosian. Final signature, the prime template, remains secure within Zenith. So we prevent him from acquiring the final piece, Kevin concluded, his strategic mind immediately grasping the implications. Keep Zenith safe, and Albedo's plan fails by default. Temporary solution only, Vex cautioned. Albedo will eventually develop alternative acquisition method. Current timeline projection suggests approximately 47 days before technological breakthrough enables remote extraction. Naya's bioluminescent patterns shifted as she processed this information. Then we have 47 days to develop a counter-strategy that doesn't require the unification protocol. Or, Zenith said quietly, we take the fight directly to Albedo while we still maintain tactical advantage. All eyes turned to him as he continued, the Chronolith Network isn't just a defensive system, it's a multiversal mapping grid. With the four of us connected to it, we could theoretically trace Albedo's dimensional coordinates through the Hunter's residual energy signatures. Dangerous, Vex observed, though their tone suggested interest rather than rejection. But potentially viable. Hunter dimensional recall leaves quantum entanglement trail traceable through chronolith resonance pattern. A direct assault would be exactly what he expects, Lyra pointed out, her tactical mind analyzing probabilities. Defensive capabilities would be maximized against conventional approach vectors. Then we don't use conventional vectors, Zenith replied, a plan forming rapidly in his mind. We use the dimensional constants themselves, the four cosmic principles Albedo doesn't fully understand. Gwen's eyes widened with comprehension. Transformation, energy, adaptation, and dimension, the four principles represented by the champions. Together, they could create a dimensional approach that exists outside Albedo's predictive models. A convergence of our unique abilities, Ember realized, her royal flames brightening with hope. Not merely combining powers, but establishing a new dimensional constant through our unified cosmic representation. As they discussed the theoretical approach, developing increasingly refined strategies, Zenith observed his companions with growing appreciation for how their distinct perspectives complemented each other. Ember's passionate intensity balanced by Naya's methodical scientific approach, Lyra's precise tactical analysis. Complemented by Vex's multidimensional perspective, Gwen's magical understanding working alongside Kevin's pragmatic problem-solving. In that moment, he understood why the Chronolith Network had identified these specific individuals as champions. Their strength lay not merely in their unique genetic signatures or abilities, but in how they formed a balanced whole when united, each representing an aspect of the cosmic principles that governed dimensional stability. The realization brought another insight, one that connected his dual existence in unexpected ways. Ben Tennyson had always found High's greatest strength in connections with others, family, friends, allies who complemented his abilities and compensated for his weaknesses. That fundamental truth remained unchanged despite his transformation into Zenith. As the champions continued refining their approach, a sense of possibility replaced the earlier dread. They faced nearly impossible odds against an enemy with vast resources and a dangerous head start, but together, they represented something Albedo could never fully comprehend or replicate. It's not just about stopping Albedo, Zenith said finally, interrupting the tactical discussions. It's about restoring proper dimensional balance. The restoration event preserved reality but left certain cosmic principles in flux. Perhaps this confrontation isn't random chance, it's the multiverse attempting to establish new stability parameters. Vex's galaxy eyes focused on him with newfound respect. You perceive multidimensional patterns with remarkable clarity for a linear being. Cosmic balance indeed requires periodic recalibration. Current instability may represent opportunity rather than merely threat. So what's our next move? Kevin asked practically, bringing the discussion back to immediate concerns. We need to locate the final pieces of the puzzle, Zenith decided. Vex's dimensional monitoring has identified patterns in Albedo's hunting strategy. If we can predict his next targets, we can either protect them or use them as bait to draw him out. Tactical analysis suggests high probability target exists within temporal anomaly zone near galactic core, Lyra offered. Her chronometric implants processing available data. Unusual energy signatures consistent with artificially preserved timeline bubble. I've detected that anomaly, Vex confirmed, Manipu. Latting the dimensional display to highlight a specific reality branch that pulsed with distinctive energy. Self-contained temporal loop maintaining single planet in perpetual state 14 years post-restoration event. Gwen studied the display with growing concern. That's Earth, or a version of it where time stopped progressing normally after the restoration. Why would Albedo be interested in that specific timeline? The answer came to Zenith with sudden clarity, memories from his previous existence providing crucial context. Because that's where Julie lives. The name hung in the air, lad. N with emotional significance that transcended his current Galvan existence. Julie Yamamoto. Ben Tennyson's first serious relationship, the person who had helped shape his understanding of responsibility and connection beyond heroics. Her genetic signature wouldn't be valuable for physical attributes, NAIA realized, scientific understanding merging with growing emotional awareness. But for the neural patterns associated with emotional development and moral decision-making. Precisely what Albedo failed to extract from Gwen and Kevin, Zenith confirmed grimly. The emotional cornerstones of Ben Tennyson's personality development. Quote, "Then our course is clear," Ember stated with determination, her royal blue flames intensifying. "We must reach this temporal anomaly before Albedo's hunters, protect this Julie person, and use the opportunity to implement our dimensional convergence strategy." As they prepared for this next critical mission, Zenith found himself drawn to the dimensional display showing the preserved Earth timeline. Though his current existence as Galvan provided analytical distance, Ben's memories of Julie remained vivid and emotionally complex, a reminder of the human connections that had defined his previous life. "I haven't seen her in over 60 years, he said quietly, more to himself than the others. From her perspective, it will have been only 14. Ember moved beside him, her flames carefully regulated to provide warmth without danger. "Will she recognize you in Galvan form?" "No," he admitted, and explaining the truth would only put her at greater risk. "For this mission, I'll need to maintain human form, but not Ben's appearance. She deserves protection without the emotional complications of seeing someone who looks like a ghost from her past. Your consideration for her emotional well-being speaks volumes," NAIA observed, her bioluminescent patterns expressing complex emotional understanding beyond verbal language. "Even across lifetimes and physical transformations, you retain core compassion that defined your previous existence." Vex, who had been monitoring dimensional fluctuations around the temporal anomaly, suddenly stiffened. Their form shifting rapidly through multiple phase states. Dimensional disturbance detected at temporal anomaly perimeter. Breach pattern matches Albedo's hunters. Timeline. 17 minutes ago. He's already moving against the target. Lyra translated, immediately shifting to tactical assessment. Probability of successful extraction without immediate intervention, 78%. "Then we move now," Zenith decided, activating the ultimate Omnitrix's dimensional jump capabilities. "Vex, can you create a phase shift corridor directly into the temporal anomaly?" "Possible but difficult," they responded. Silver markings pulsing with concentrated energy. Temporal loop creates dimensional resistance against external penetration. Requires precise calibration and significant energy expenditure. "I can provide additional energy through concentrated plasma manipulation," Ember offered, her royal blue flames already shifting to higher energy states. "And my chronometric implants see and help calibrate temporal phase alignment," Lyra added, interfacing directly with the dimensional equipment. NAIA completed their circle of cooperation. "My biotech sensors can monitor dimensional stability throughout the transition, providing real-time adjustments to prevent corridor collapse." As the four champions worked in seamless coordination, Zenith transformed into human form once more, is time with subtle modifications to prevent immediate recognition while maintaining sufficient familiarity for tactical advantage on Earth. Kevin placed a hand on his shoulder, a gesture that bridged decades and dimensions. "For what it's worth, I think Ben would be proud of what you've become. Different body, same hero inside. We both are," Gwen added, her anodite energy glowing softly around her aging form. "And we'll monitor from here, providing dimensional coordination through the chronolith network." The phase shift corridor began forming as Vex manipulated quantum possibilities into stable pathways, their form becoming increasingly translucent as they extended their consciousness across dimensional boundaries. Ember's royal flames provided the necessary energy infusion, while Lyra's chronometric precision ensured temporal alignment with the anomalous Earth. NAIA approached Zenith before they entered the corridor, her bioluminescent patterns expressing emotions too complex for verbal language. "Water adapts to any container without losing its essential nature," she said softly. "Remember that when facing echoes of your previous existence, your consciousness remains fundamentally you, regardless of physical form or dimensional location." Her insight resonated deeply, offering perspective that would prove crucial in the emotional complexity awaiting them. With a nod of gratitude, Zenith led his team of champions toward the phase shift corridor, toward a preserved fragment of Earth where time had stopped after Ben Tennyson's sacrifice, and toward a confrontation that would determine the fate of the multiverse itself. As they stepped into the dimensional pathway, reality shifted around them in cascading waves of quantum possibility. Through the fluctuating barrier between worlds, Zenith caught fragmentary glimpses of countless reality branches, infinite variations of lives that might have been, choices that created entire universes of difference. For a brief, transcendent moment, he perceived the multiversal pattern in its entirety, the cosmic dance of creation and destruction, divergence and convergence, separation and unification. Within this pattern, he recognized their current mission not as random chance or cruel fate, but as necessary recalibration of fundamental constants. Then the moment passed, reality solidified around them, and they emerged onto a sunlit street in Bellwood. 14 years after the Restoration event, into a world where Ben Tennyson remained a recent memory rather than distant legend. In the distance, dimensional distortions signaled the Hunters' presence. Their target, Julie Yamamoto, remained unaware of the cosmic forces converging around her life, the role she unknowingly played in the multiversal balance, and the approaching danger that threatened not just her existence, but reality itself. Zenith took a deep breath, 2 lifetimes of memories providing both tactical knowledge and emotional context for what lay ahead. "Let's move," he said simply. "We have a world to save." Again. Chapter 3. Ultimate Synthesis. Temporal loops created distinctive atmospheric anomalies, subtle visual distortions like heat shimmer on summer asphalt. But occurring across the entire electromagnetic spectrum, Zenith's transformed human eyes detected these ripples immediately upon entering Julie Yamamoto's preserved timeline. The air itself seemed thinner here. Reality stretched to maintain a fragment of time that should have continued flowing forward. Dimensional integrity at 67%, Vex observed, their silver marked. Form partially translucent in this reality as they existed simultaneously across multiple phase states. This temporal bubble is deteriorating. Chronometric decay accelerated by repeated Hunter incursions. They stood on a hillside overlooking Bellwood, a version 14 years after the Restoration event. Unlike the advanced, alien-integrated metropolis Gwen and Kevin inhabited in the Prime timeline, this Bellwood remained frozen in development. The skyline featured early alien-human architectural collaborations, memorial parks still under construction, and transportation systems in transition. Al states between conventional and quantum technologies. "It's like a photograph," Ember observed, her royal blue flames carefully regulated to avoid detection in this fragile reality. A single moment of evolutionary development preserved artificially. Naya's bioluminescent patterns dimmed to match local light conditions as she analyzed environmental readings through her biotech sensors. The temporal stasis affects biological evolution as well. Plant and animal species show no genetic drift from baseline expectations. Even microbial adaptation rates remain static. Tactical assessment indicates 3 Hunter breach points. Lyra reported, her chronometric implants processing temporal distortion patterns. Primary target location identified. University Research Complex, Northeastern Quadrant. Target acquisition team deployed approximately 12 minutes ago. Zenith focused on the distant campus buildings visible through morning haze, Bellwood University, where Julie had been pursuing advanced degrees in xenobiology following the Restoration event. The memories felt simultaneously distant and immediate, belonging to another lifetime yet integrated into his consciousness with perfect clarity. Hunters will employ stealth extraction protocols in populated areas, he analyzed, strategic assessment combining Ben's instincts with Galvan precision. They'll create localized temporal displacement fields to isolate the target before extraction. Standard procedure would establish perimeter control points first. Confirmed, Lyra agreed, indicating tactical holograms projected from her armor. 3 equidistant positions surrounding target location. Pattern suggests dimensional containment field deployment within 17 minutes. Then we have 17 minutes to reach Julie before they spring their trap. Zenith concluded, already calculating optimal approach vectors. Vex, can you phase shift directly to her location? The dimensional entity's galaxy-like eyes shifted. Through multiple spectrum analyses before responding. Negative. Temporal anomaly creates phase-shifting resistance. Conventional approach necessary within bubble parameters. I can provide aerial reconnaissance, Ember offered. Her flame body capable of controlled flight when properly modulated. And I can access the university's water systems, NAIA added. Creating an emergency evacuation SCE. Nario through targeted sprinkler activation would clear civilians from potential combat zones. Zenith nodded appreciatively at their tactical suggestions. Lyra. Coordinate perimeter disruption. Targ. Et the hunters. Containment devices before they activate fully. Vex. Monitor dimensional stability. If the hunters attempt to collapse the temporal bubble during extraction, we need immediate warning. With strategies established, they moved toward the campus with practiced efficiency. Zenith maintained his human disguise, similar enough to pass unnoticed among Earth's population but sufficiently errant from Ben Tennyson's appearance to avoid recognition. Bellwood University's sprawling campus reflected the transitional period perfectly, traditional academic buildings alongside newer structure. Incorporating alien architectural influences. The xenobiology department occupied a distinctive spherical building with transparent sections revealing multiple climate-controlled research environments. As they approached, Zenith felt an unexpected emotional response stirring beneath his tactical focus, memories of visiting Julie here during their relationship, watching her passionate pursuit of K. Knowledge that had ultimately led her toward understanding alien biology. The sensation was peculiar, simultaneously belonging to him yet stemming from experiences in another body, another lifetime. Target located. Ember reported through their secure communication system, her elevated position providing clear sightlines across the campus. Third floor research laboratory, Eastern exposure. Female. Human matching target description conducting experimental procedures with assistant. Hunter perimeter team closing from multiple vectors. Civilian density in target zone. Lyra inquired, already calculating optimal intervention scenarios. Minimal. 2 humans in immediate vicinity. Remainder of research staff located in adjacent wing. NAIA had already interfaced with the building's water systems. Her biotech implants establishing control over environmental regulations. Prepared to initiate localized evacuation protocols on command. Water-based diversion capacity at maximum. Wait for my signal, Zenith instructed. Approaching the building's main entrance. We need precise timing to disrupt all 3 hunter teams simultaneously. If any escape with partial samples, Albedo still gains tactical advantage. Inside, the research building hummed with scientific activity, students and professors moving between laboratories, holographic displays showing various xenobiological studies in progress. Specimen containment units housing extraterrestrial flora and fauna maintained under controlled conditions. The familiar academic environment carried additional resonance through Ben's memories, creating a doubled perspective that Zenith had learned to integrate rather than suppress. They located the specific laboratory without difficulty, pausing outside to assess the situation through the transparent wall sections. Inside, Julie Yamamoto worked with focused precision at an advanced analysis station, examining cellular structures displayed in holographic enlargement. Her appearance had changed significantly from Ben's memories, perhaps more mature, more confident in her expertise, but unmistakably the same person whose presence had once been so important in his development. Beside her stood her research assistant, a young man carefully documenting results in a data terminal. Neither showed awareness of the 3 hunter teams converging on their location from different access points. Mechanical entities moving with unnatural stillness through the building, temporal displacement devices already preparing to activate. Hunter Team Alpha initiating temporal displacement sequence, Lyra warned. Her implants detecting the subtle chronometric disturbances. Estimated activation. 43 seconds. NAIA. Begin evacuation protocol, Zenith commanded. Ember. Neutralize the roof access Hunter Team. Lyra. Take the western approach. Vex and I will handle the main corridor team. The response was immediate and coordinated. Throughout the building, emergency sprinklers active. Aided in precise patterns, avoiding the target laboratory but creating urgent evacuation scenarios in surrounding areas. Alarms sounded as water cascaded through corridors and research spaces, RS and students quickly implementing practiced evacuation procedures. Simultaneously, Ember descended upon the roof access hunter team, royal blue flames manifesting with controlled precision to sever their temporal displacement equipment without risking structural damage to the building. The mechanical hunters immediately shifted to combat protocols, reconfiguring limbs into weapons systems that discharged energy blasts toward the Pyronite. Predictable response patterns, she observed with warrior's confidence, her diplomatic formality completely absent in battle. Flame-formed barriers neutralized their attacks while concentrated heat beams disabled their primary locomotion systems. Mechanical adaptation capabilities impressive but fundamentally limited by programmed response parameters. In the western corridor, Lyra engaged the second hunter team with characteristic temporal precision. Her chrono-stabilizer weapon fired carefully calibrated pulses that disrupted the hunters' internal timing mechanisms, creating cascading failures across their integrated systems. When they attempted to compensate by accelerating their own temporal fields, she countered by creating localized STA-SIS pockets that trapped their attacks in suspended animation. Temporal warfare fundamentally asymmetrical when one combatant possesses superior chronometric awareness, she stated with clinical detachment. Though her movements displayed undeniable grace as she systematically neutralized each mechanical opponent. Zenith and Vex confronted the primary hunter team approaching through the main corridor. 3 advanced models clearly designed specifically for this extraction mission. Unlike previous encounters, these hunters displayed biological components integrated into their mechanical structure. Synthesized genetic material harvested from previous targets incorporated to enhance their capabilities. Biomechanical integration detected, Vex observed, their form shifting through multiple phase states to analyze the hunters. Partial chronosapian and pyronite genetic material integrated into weapons systems. Albedo adapting hunter capabilities based on champion genetic patterns. The lead hunter activated advanced scanning systems that immediately locked onto Zenith's transformed human appearance. Priority target identified. Ben Tennyson genetic template detected despite morphological disguise. Primary acquisition protocol overrides all secondary objectives. They recognize your core genetic signature regardless of transformation, Vex warned as the hunters reconfigured into specialized extraction configuration. Zenith nodded, abandoning his human disguise in a flash of emerald light. His Galvan form emerged, diminutive but unquestionably more tactically advantageous in this scenario. Then there's no point maintaining the charade. The hunters paused momentarily, processing the transformation, sufficient hesitation for Zenith to activate another sequence. Emerald Light R.E. configured his molecular structure into Electromancer, a being of pure energy capable of interfacing directly with technological systems. Without physical form to target, the hunters' extraction equipment proved useless. More importantly, Electromancer could directly access and override their command protocols, creating cascading system failures through precise application of counter-programming. Your operational systems contain fundamental architecture flaws, Zenith observed, his voice resonating with electrical harmonics as he systematically disabled the hunters' capabilities. Biomechanics. Cal integration creates programming vulnerabilities at junction points between organic and technological components. The hunters attempted to adapt, shifting to distributed processing networks that sacrificed individual units to preserve collective functionality. The tactical response demonstrated learning capabilities beyond previous iterations, confirming Albedo's ongoing refinement of his forces. Vex complemented Zenith's technological assault by manipulating dimensional phase variances around the hunters, creating localized reality fluctuations that further disrupted their operational capabilities. Dimensional constants themselves reject your artificial presence, they declared, silver markings pulsing with concentrated energy. Your existence represents fundamental violation of natural order. Throughout the building, evacuation proceeded with coordinated efficiency, except in Julie's laboratory, where she and her assistant remained focused on their research, unaware of the chaos unfolding around them. The temporal displacement field generated by the hunters had already isolated their immediate area from normal time flow, creating a protective bubble within the larger temporal anomaly. With the hunter teams neutralized, the champions regrouped outside the laboratory's entrance. Through the transparent wall sections, they could see Julie and her assistant working in a pair. NT slow motion, their movements dragging through the temporal displacement field's effects. Field integrity decreasing, Lyra assessed, monitoring chronometric readings. Hunter's defeat triggered automatic destabilization protocols. Estimated collapse: 2 minutes, 18 seconds. If that field collapses improperly, it could tear them from this reality entirely, Zenith realized with growing concern. We need controlled dissipation rather than catastrophic failure. Before they could implement a solution, a new dimensional breach formed directly within the laboratory, unlike the Hunters' crude tiers. This portal opened with mathematical precision, edges perfectly defined without reality distortion. Through this immaculate opening stepped a figure that caused Zenith's energy form to pulse with recognition and alarm. Albedo had arrived personally, but not the version from Ben Tennyson's memories. This Albedo had evolved significantly, his Galvan form augmented with biomechanical and cements that extended his natural capabilities beyond biological limitations. Most distinctive was the device integrated into his central nervous system, a prototype anti-Omnitrix that pulsed with unsettling red energy. Tendrils extending beneath his skin like technological veins. Fascinating, his voice carried clearly despite the temporal displacement field. The champions gather precisely as probability matrices predicted. Your tactical success against my hunters represents acceptable statistical variance within parameters. Time within the field accelerated suddenly as Albedo manipulated its chronometric properties. Julie and her assistant collapsed unconscious as the temporal shift overwhelmed their human neurological systems. Primitive extraction teams served their purpose, Albedo continued. Biomechanical appendages extending to secure Julie's unconscious form. Creating predictable threat profile to analyze champion response tactics while simultaneously manipulating your movement. And patterns toward this precise convergence point. The realization struck Zenith with devastating clarity. This was never about Julie. She's secondary to your actual objective. Correct, Albedo A. See knowledge with the satisfied expression of a teacher whose student finally comprehends an advanced concept. Genetic acquisition remains necessary but tactically straightforward. My primary objective, E, required significantly more complex manipulation. His augmented eyes focused directly on Zenith. I needed you here, in this specific temporal anomaly, with all 4 champions assembled. The final component required for anti-Omnitrix completion is not merely genetic material but dimensional convergence catalyst, created only when all cosmic principle representatives occupy identical space-time ordinates within a reality branch exhibiting perfect temporal isolation. Outside the laboratory, alarms continued sounding as evacuation procedures progressed. Within the displacement field, however, a more profound change began manifesting. Reality itself seemed to thin as dimensional barriers weakened under Albedo's manipulations. The temporal bubble, Vex realized, galaxy eyes widening with comprehension. It's not a natural anomaly. You created it deliberately as a dimensional crucible. Precisely, Albedo confirmed, the anti-Omnitrix pulsing with increasing intensity. A controlled environment isolated from standard multiversal currents, where fundamental constants can be manipulated without cascade effects across connected realities. Zenith transformed immediately, Electromancer G. Iving way to Chronospectre, a time-manipulating form capable of countering temporal distortions. Whatever you're attempting stops now, Albedo. The augmented Galvan regarded him with something approaching pity. Your persistence remains admirable despite its fundamental futility. This outcome has progressed beyond probability into certainty. The convergence catalyst forms regardless of your resistance. As if responding to his declaration, the temporal displacement field expanded suddenly, encompassing the entire laboratory in a reality bubble that began separating from the surrounding temper. Anomaly. A pocket dimension forming within the already isolated timeline. Ember's royal blue flames intensified as she prepared combat protocols. Reality partitioning detected. He's creating a dimensional forge. Containment impossible, Lyra reported, her chronometric implants struggling to process the complex temporal mechanics unfolding around them. Dimensional partition integrity increasing exponentially. Naya's bioluminescent patterns fluctuated with urgent warning signals. Bioelectrical interface disruption imminent. Organic neural systems will fail if partition completes. Champions must maintain unified presence. Vex instructed urgently, their form fluctuating between phase states as they resisted the dimensional separation. Cosmic principle representatives must remain in Harmonic convergence to prevent catastrophic reality fragmentation. Understanding the necessity, the four champions moved in perfect synchronization, forming a unified defensive position around Zenith as he maintained Chronospectre form. Their combined presence, representatives of transformation, energy, adaptation, and dimension, created a stabilizing influence against Albedo's manipulations. Augmented Galvin observed their coordination with scientific interest. Fascinating. Instinctive harmonic alignment without conscious theoretical understanding. Your natural resonance patterns demon. Straight precisely why champion genetic material proves essential to my work. With Julie secured by his biomechanical appendages, Albedo activated the prototype anti-Omnitrix fully. Red energy cascaded throughout the laboratory. Reality rippling around him as fundamental constants began shifting within the isolated dimension. The multiverse requires rewriting, he declared, his voice resonating unnatural harmonics as the anti-Omnitrix integrated more completely with his nervous system. Current dimensional parameters perpetuate chaotic development across reality branches. Inefficient, unpredictable, fundamentally flawed, and you believe you're qualified to determine optimal reality configuration. Zenith challenged, Chronospectre form maintaining temporal integrity around the champ. Ions despite increasing dimensional pressure. Qualifications irrelevant when objective necessity exists, Albedo responded with perfect Galvin logic. Infinite realities generate infinite suffering across probability spectrum. Optimization requires unified constants, predetermined parameters, controlled evolutionary development. Life without freedom or choice, Ember countered, royal blue flames pulsing with passionate intensity. Predetermined existence without possibility for growth beyond established parameters. Growth occurs within optimal constraints, Albedo corrected. Current multiversal system permits unlimited negative outcomes alongside positive developments. Statistical analysis confirms. Suffering outweighs advancement under unrestricted dimensional variation. The philosophical debate served tactical purpose, maintaining Albedo's attention while the champions established synchronized defensive formation. Ember's controlled flames created energy barriers around their position, while Naya's bioluminescent field generated bioelectric interference patterns against Albedo's scanning systems. Lyra established localized chronometric stabilization fields, and Vex manipulated dimensional phase variances to maintain their connection to primary reality. Meanwhile, Zenith carefully extended Chronospectre's temporal awareness toward Julie and her assistant, establishing protective temporal pockets around their unconscious forms to prevent neural damage from the dimensional distortions. Albedo noticed the maneuver immediately. Fascinating prioritization of individual welfare despite multiversal scale threat scenario. This fundamental behavioral pattern, valuing specific life forms over statistical optimality, represents precisely the inefficiency my work eliminates. It represents precisely what you never understood about the Omnitrix, Zenith countered, maintaining protective temporal fields despite increasing difficulty. Azmuth didn't create it as a tool for enforcing universal constants, he designed it to celebrate diversity across species and dimensions. Azmuth's perspective remained limited by emotional attachments, Albedo dismissed. His greatest creation deserved application beyond mere diplomatic symbolism. The dimensional partition continued strengthening, reality beyond the laboratory becoming increasingly distorted as their pocket diamonds. Ions separated further from the temporal anomaly. Outside, evacuation alarms faded into distant echoes as connection to primary reality weakened. Dimensional separation approaching critical threshold, Vex warned. Their form fluctuating with increasing instability. Phase variance exceeding sustainable parameters. Lyra's chronometric implants pulsed urgent warnings. Temporal integrity failing at acceleration beyond compensation capabilities. Zenith recognized the inevitable strategic conclusion. They couldn't maintain defensive position indefinitely against Albedo's reality manipulation. The anti-Omnitrix, even in prototype form, demonstrated dimensional control capabilities approaching the ultimate Omnitrix's potential. We need to shift tactics, he decided, addressing his companions through their secured communication link. Defensive containment fails against superior dimensional manipulation. We require offensive counteraction. Conventional attacks ineffective against dimensional partitioning. Lyra assessed clinically. Then we employ unconventional methods, Zenith responded, already formulating approach vectors based on observed dimensional mechanics. Cosmic principle. Convergence works both ways. If our unified presence stabilizes reality against his manipulation, our coordinated dimensional interference could disrupt his control patterns. Understanding manifested. Across their unique communication systems, Ember's flames flickering with tactical comprehension, Naya's bioluminescence pulsing acknowledgement patterns, Lyra's implants calculating probability matrices, and Vex's silver markings aligning into new configurations. Without verbal coordination, they initiated simultaneous action, 4 champions moving in perfect harmonic synchronization despite their vastly different physiologies and capabilities. Ember projected royal blue flames in precisely calibrated patterns, creating energy resonance fields that interfered with the anti-Omnitrix's dimensional manipulation frequencies. Eternal flame represents perpetual transformation, energy neither created nor destroyed, merely changing form throughout infinite cycle. Naia generated bioluminescent pulse that disrupted the bioelectrical components of albedo's augmentations, targeting the integration points between technological systems and organic tissue. Adaptation flows like water, finding path of least resistance while gradually reshaping even hardest substances through persistent interaction. Lyra established counter-chronometric fields that destabilized the temporal consistency within albedo's dimensional partition, creating micro-fractures in his carefully constructed reality bubble. Time itself rejects artificial constraints. Chronometric constants reassert natural progression despite mechanical manipulation attempts. Vex shifted through multiple phase states simultaneously, their existence temporarily occupying overlapping dimensional coordinates that stressed the structural integrity of albedo's reality manipulation. Dimensional constants remain immutable beneath superficial manipulation. Foundational reality reasserts fundamental parameters against artificial variance. He coordinated assault created compounding interference patterns that visibly affected albedo's control. The anti-Omnitrix fluctuated between stability and disruption, red energy patterns becoming air. Attica's fundamental cosmic principles reasserted natural parameters against artificial manipulation. Fascinating tactical application of theoretical dimensional mechanics, albedo acknowledged, his scientific curiosity momentarily overriding strategic concerns. Champion convergence demonstrates synergistic capabilities exceeding individual component potentials. Despite this momentary advantage, however, albedo's augmented systems adapted rapidly, biomechanical components reconfiguring to compensate for interference patterns while the anti-Omnitrix established new dimensional manipulation frequencies beyond their disruption capabilities. Temporary tactical success represents acceptable experimental data point, he stated with clinical detachment. Adaptation parameters now calibrated against champion convergence frequencies. With renewed control established, albedo expanded the anti-Omnitrix's influence throughout their isolated reality pocket. Red energy tendrils extended toward each champion, scanning systems analyzing their unique genetic signatures and dimensional resonance patterns. Final phase genetic acquisition commencing, he announced as extraction fields began forming around them. Resistance unnecessary. Extraction process designed for minimal structural damage to source material. Zenith recognized the critical juncture had arrived, conventional tactics had failed, and albedo's dimensional manipulation approached completion threshold. The moment required transcending tactical resistance toward strategic counter-creation. The unification protocol, he stated through their communication link. It's our only remaining option. His companions' responses reflected their unique perspectives on this potentially catastrophic choice. Calculated probability of CCESSFUL implementation without permanent consciousness fragmentation. 38%, Lyra assessed, her tactical mind unable to recommend such unfavorable odds. Fundamental essence persists beyond physical form, Vex observed. Their multidimensional perspective offering cosmic context. Consciousness transcends singular manifestation across reality spectrum. Water assumes many forms without losing essential nature. Naia reminded him, her scientific understanding complemented by philosophical depth. Your dual lifetime perspective uniquely qualifies you for consciousness expansion beyond normal parameters. Flame consumes itself to release energy, Ember acknowledged with warrior's acceptance of necessary sacrifice. Sometimes destruction enables greater creation. Their perspective strengthened his resolve despite the extraordinary risk. Maintaining chronospecter form, Zenith established protective temporal fields around Julie and her assistant before addressing Albedo directly. Your fundamental miscalculation, he stated with calm certainty, lies in assuming the ultimate Omnitrix represents merely improved version of original device. Azmuth designed it specifically for dimensional stabilization during multiversal crisis scenarios. The augmented Galvan paused his extraction procedures momentarily, genuine scientific curiosity evident. Interesting assertion. Evidence suggests comprehensive transformation capabilities represent primary functional purpose. Transformation represents merely surface functionality, Zenith explained, simultaneously initiating unification protocol through neural interface connection with the ultimate Omnitrix. Its true purpose emerges during dimensional instability events precisely like your current manipulation attempt. Emerald energy began manifesting around Zenith's transformed state, the ultimate Omnitrix responding to activation commands that transcended conventional transformation sequences. This energy didn't reconfigure his molecular structure into another form. Instead, it expanded his consciousness beyond physical limitations, establishing direct neural interface with dimensional constants themselves. Unification protocol initiated. The ultimate Omnitrix announced, its typically neutral voice carrying newfound depth. Neural integration commencing. Consciousness expansion proceeding through dimensional constant parameters. Albedo recognized the procedure immediately, his augmented eyes widening with scientific appreciation and strategic alarm. Fascinating. Azmuth actually implemented theoretical consciousness dimensional integration matrix. Probability calculations suggested implementation impossible due to biological strain limitations. Limitations you understood correctly, Zenith acknowledged as emerald energy surrounded him completely. For any normal consciousness. But I possess unique dual lifetime perspective, Ben Tennyson's human consciousness imprinted upon Galvan neural architecture. The unification protocol continued expanding his awareness across dimensional boundaries, consciousness stretching beyond physical form to perceive multiversal constants directly. The XP. Ryan's transcended conventional perception, reality appearing not as separate dimensions but as interwoven probability patterns, cosmic principles manifesting as fundamental forces flowing between infinite reality branches. Dimensional integration approaching critical threshold, the ultimate Omnitrix warned. Consciousness fragmentation risk, 62% and rising. Neural architecture XP, reinforcing strain beyond sustainable parameters. The warning represented understatement. Zenith's awareness stretched across thousands of dimensions simultaneously, threatening to dissolve his individual identity into cosmic probability patterns. The expansion created overwhelming sensory input beyond normal processing capabilities, reality branches appearing simultaneously across perception fields. Impossible for linear consciousness to integrate. In this moment of potential dissolution, however, something unexpected occurred. The four champions established direct connection with his expanding consciousness. Their unique cosmic principle representations creating stabilizing influence against fragmentation risk. Ember's fiery consciousness provided energetic cohesion, passion, determination, and unwavering purpose creating anchoring influence against dissolution into cosmic probability patterns. Her flame essence burned within his expanding awareness, maintaining core identity through emotional resonance that transcended physical boundaries. Naya's adaptable consciousness flowed through his fragmentation points, reinforcing neural connections, establishing new pathways where original architecture strained beyond tolerance. Creating flexible stability that accommodated expansion without structural failure. Her water essence preserved continuity through transitional states, maintaining memory integrity across dimensional boundaries. Lyra's chronometric consciousness established temporal consistency throughout his expanding awareness, organizing overwhelming simultaneous perceptions into comprehensible linear sequences. Preventing paradoxical feedback loops from creating catastrophic neural cascade failures. Her time essence provided organizational framework that allowed multidimensional perception without overwhelming cognitive processes. Vex's dimensional consciousness created navigational architecture throughout the expansion, establishing reference points across infinite reality branches. Maintaining orientation within multiversal probability patterns, preventing permanent dissociation from primary identity coordinates. Their dimension essence ensured return pathway regardless of expansion parameters, securing connection to original consciousness configuration. Through their combined influence, Zenith's awareness continued expanding without terminal fragmentation, consciousness integrating with dimensional constants while maintaining core identity intact. The unification protocol reached completion threshold, establishing direct connection between his consciousness and the fundamental cosmic principles governing multiversal structure. Albedo observed this development with scientific fascination overriding strategic concerns. Remarkable. Champion convergence. Creates stabilization matrix sufficient for consciousness dimensional integration without terminal fragmentation. Theoretical probability negligible, yet empirical evidence undeniable. From Zenith's expanded perspective, Albedo's dimensional manipulation appeared as artificial distortion within natural probability patterns, forced deviation from cosmic principles rather than harmonious integration with fundamental reality. The anti-Omnitrix prototype, despite impressive capabilities, represented fundamentally flawed approach to dimensional interaction. Your error becomes apparent from expanded perspective. Zenith's voice resonated with multidimensional harmonics as consciousness integrated with cosmic principles. Reality cannot be forced into artificial configuration without creating catastrophic probability cascades throughout connected dimensions. Using his newfound awareness, Zenith perceived the structural weaknesses in Albedo's dimensional partition, points where artificial manipulation contradicted fundamental cosmic principles. With precision impossible from limited perspective, he established counter-resonance patterns that systematically unraveled the reality manipulation. Dimensional partition integrity decreasing at geometric progression, Albedo observed, genuine alarm replacing scientific detachment. Countermeasures ineffective against fundamental constant manipulation. The champions maintained their connections to Zenith's expanded consciousness, each contributing unique stabilizing influence that allowed precise application of dimensional correction without reality fragmentation. Through their unified effort, Albedo's artificial partition began reintegrating with natural dimensional parameters, reality reasserting fundamental constants against technological manipulation. Your anti-Omnitrix fundamentally misunderstands multiversal purpose, Zenith explained, his perspective now encompassing sufficient dimensional awareness to perceive cosmic patterns beyond normal comprehension. Diversity across reality branches doesn't represent error requiring correction. It embodies necessary probability exploration ensuring optimal adaptation across infinite scenarios. Statistical analysis confirms. Suffering exceeds advancement under unrestricted variation, Albedo insisted, the anti-Omnitrix pulsing with increasingly desperate energy patterns as its reality manipulation unraveled. Your analysis examined consequences without perceiving purpose, Zenith countered, multidimensional awareness revealing deeper patterns behind apparent chaos. Fairing itself represents adaptation catalyst, evolutionary pressure creating advancement impossible under controlled parameters. As their dimensional battle continued, Zenith perceived something unexpected through his expanded awareness. Beneath Albedo's logical arguments and scientific detachment lay emotional motivation driving his entire multiversal restructuring plan. Not abstract desire for optimization, but profound personal pain stemming from his original failure to replace Ben Tennyson. Your true motivation reveals itself through dimensional resonance patterns, Zenith observed with passion transcending strategic opposition. Your consciousness carries emotional trauma imprint from original identity displacement attempt. The anti-Omnitrix represents attempt to validate your stance by rewriting dimensional constants that rejected your previous efforts. Albedo's composed scientific demeanor fractured momentarily, revealing genuine emotional response beneath technological augmentation. Irrelevant psychological analysis. Objective dimensional optimization remains primary motivation regardless of secondary emotional components. Denial contradicts dimensional resonance evidence, Zenith responded gently. Expanded awareness perceiving the complex interplay between logical justification and emotional motivation. Consciousness cannot deceive fundamental reality patterns. While maintaining dimensional counter-manipulation against the anti-Omnitrix, Zenith simultaneously extended perception toward Julie and her assistant, ensuring their neural patterns remained intact despite reality fluctuations. This divided attention demonstrated mastery of expanded consciousness beyond Albedo's capabilities, attention simultaneously focused on cosmic scale dimensional manipulation and individual scale protection. Observing this capacity, Albedo's scientific curiosity again temporarily overcame strategic concerns. Fascinating attentional distribution capabilities. Simultaneous macro-scale and micro-scale perception maintenance demonstrates consciousness integration beyond theoretical parameters. The capacity you cannot replicate, Zenith explained, because you're a P.P. Roach fundamentally misunderstands consciousness dimension interaction. Integration requires harmonizing with cosmic principles rather than imposing artificial structure upon them. The dimensional partition continued unraveling under Zenith's counter-manipulation, reality reintegrating with natural parameters as the anti-Omnitrix's influence diminished. Albedo's extraction fields dissipated, technological systems struggling against fundamental constant reassertion. Reality restructuring requires consciousness capacity you haven't achieved, Zenith continued, expanded awareness perceiving Albedo's limitations with compassionate clarity rather than judgment. The anti-Omnitrix forces dimensional compliance through technological manipulation rather than harmonious integration through consciousness expansion. Albedo's scientific mind processed this assessment with unexpected receptivity, genuine curiosity temporarily supplanting oppositional stance. Integration approach demonstrates theoretical viability previous calculations failed to identify. Consciousness dimensional harmonization presents alternative methodology worthy of exploration. This moment of scientific acknowledgement created opportunity beyond tactical advantage, potential for resolution transcending mere opposition victory. Through expanded awareness, Zenith perceived probability branches extending from this convergence point, including potential futures where Albedo's brilliant mind contributed to multiversal understanding rather than destruction. Alternative methodology remains accessible, Zenith offered. Multidimensional perspective revealing reconciliation possibilities invisible from limited viewpoint. Your understanding of dimensional mechanics exceeds nearly any consciousness across reality spectrum. Redirected toward harmonization rather than forced compliance, your work could advance cosmic principle integration beyond current parameters. The champions, still connected to Zenith's expanded consciousness, perceived his strategic direction shifting from opposition toward potential redemption. Their responses flowed through their unique connections. Tactical assessment indicates genuine probability branch for adversary rehabilitation, Lyra acknowledged, her strategic mind recognizing viable alternative to elimination. Dimensional constants favor healing over destruction when probability patterns permit, Vex confirmed. Their cosmic perspective validating reconciliation approach. Adaptation requires opportunity for change beyond established patterns, NAIA observed, scientify. See understanding recognizing growth potential even in seemingly fixed entities. Even eternal flame can be redirected from destruction toward illumination, Ember acknowledged, warrior's perspective AC. Accommodating potential for honorable resolution. Their unified support strengthened Zenith's integrated approach as he continued dismantling Albedo's dimensional manipulation while simultaneously offering alternative pathway. The anti-Omnitrix's red energy patterns gradually stabilized from chaotic disruption toward more balanced configuration, reflecting its creator's shifting perspective. Your consciousness fragmentation risk increases with prolonged dimensional integration, Albedo noted with what appeared to be genuine concern beneath scientific observation. Theoretical models suggest terminal dissolution inevitable despite champion stabilization matrix. Calculated risk accepted willingly, Zenith confirmed, awareness of his precarious consciousness state clear despite expanded perception. Multiversal stability takes precedence over individual consciousness preservation. This willingness for self-sacrifice created unexpected resonance with Albedo, scientific detachment momentar. Illy giving way to genuine emotional response. Fascinating prioritization parameter. Directly contradicts optimization logic yet demonstrates undeniable nobility within inefficiency. As the dimension, partition continued reintegrating with natural parameters, Albedo's resistance diminished further. The anti-Omnitrix's energy patterns shifted from oppositional disruption toward exploratory configuration. Still powerful but no longer attempting forceful reality manipulation. Alternative methodology theoretical framework accepted for experimental implementation, he finally stated, Biomechanica. L systems powering down from combat configuration toward research parameters. Consciousness dimensional harmonization approach warrants comprehensive investigation before concluding optimal restructuring methodology. The statement represented neither surrender nor conversion, but scientific acknowledgement of alternative approach validity, the highest form of concession possible from Albedo's perspective. His technological systems began systematically releasing accumulated genetic material and neural patterns harvested from multiple dimensions, relinquishing forced collection methodology while maintaining research objectives through modified approach. Zenith perceived this transition through expanded awareness, recognizing genuine shift in probability patterns extending from this moment. He multiversal crisis hadn't ended. Albedo's brilliant mind and technological capabilities remained potentially dangerous, but fundamental approach transformation created possibility branch toward collaborative understanding rather than oppositional destruction. With immediate threat diminishing, however, Zenith faced increasingly critical personal challenge. His consciousness remained expanded beyond sustainable parameters. Integration with dimensional constants approaching irreversible threshold. Despite champion stabilization, his individual identity began dissolving into cosmic patterns, rise and personality components fragmenting across reality branches. Consciousness integrity decreasing at accelerating rate, the ultimate Omnitrix warned. Dimensional integration approaching permanent threshold. Recommended action. Immediate protocol termination to preserve core identity structure. The champions perceived his dissolution through their connections, each experiencing his fragmentation differently through their unique perceptual frameworks. Ember sensed his emotional essence dispersing like flames separating from core source, passion and determination scattering across dimensional boundaries while central identity diminished toward critical sustainability threshold. NAIA detected his neural architecture fragmenting despite her stabilization efforts, memory pathways dissolving into probability patterns while personality components separated across dimensional boundaries beyond reconnection parameters. Lyra calculated his remaining consciousness integrity with precise chronometric assessment. Core identity dissolution imminent. Estimated remaining coherence. 3 minutes, 17 seconds at current fragmentation rate. Vex observed his dimensional coordinates becoming increasingly diffuse. Individual existence expanding toward cosmic principle state where discrete consciousness dissolved into fundamental forces governing multiversal structure. Through tremendous effort, Zenith maintained sufficient coherence to complete necessary dimensional stabilization around Julie and her assistant, ensuring their safe reintegration with primary reality as the artificial temporal anomaly dissolved. Simultaneously, he established containment parameters around Albedo and the anti-Omnitrix, preventing potential regression toward destructive methodology without imposing unnecessarily restrictive constraints. These final responsibilities fulfilled, his consciousness approached irreversible expansion threshold, individual identity preparing to dissolve into cosmic awareness. The transition represented neither death nor destruction but transformation beyond conventional existence, individual consciousness becoming integrated component within multiversal principles themselves. In this final moment of discrete identity, memories from both lifetimes flowed through his awareness, Ben Tennyson's human experiences merging completely with Zenith's Galvan existence, creating fully integrated perspective transcending physiological limitations. The dual lifetime consciousness that made the unification protocol possible now prepared for evolution beyond individual existence entirely. Before dissolution completed, however, the champions established final unified connection with his fragmenting consciousness, not merely maintaining stabilization, but creating something entirely unexpected. A dimensional anchoring matrix formed through their combined cosmic principle representation. Ember's energy essence established passionate purpose framework, emotional connect. Tions transcending physical boundaries to maintain personality cohesion despite dimensional expansion. Her fire spirit burned within fragmenting consciousness, passion and determination creating gravitational influence pulling dispersing components back toward central identity. Naya's adaptive essence created flexible neural architecture, new pathways forming where original structures dissolved, maintaining memory continuity through innovative connection methodologies impossible in conventional consciousness. Her water spirit flowed through fragmenting identity, establishing new channels preserving essential nature despite transformation. Lyra's chronometric essence imposed temporal organization throughout expanded awareness, creating sequential framework within simultaneous perception, previous. Ending paradoxical dissolution through precise timing relationships between fragmenting components. Her time spirit maintained progression coherence, ensuring forward movement rather than entropic dissipation. Vex's dimensional essence established coordinate system throughout expanding consciousness, precise locational parameters preventing total diffusion into cosmic principles, maintaining centra. Lised reference point regardless of expansion parameters. Their dimension spirit created stable cartography across infinite reality branches, ensuring return pathway remained accessible. Through this unified anchoring matrix, something unprecedented occurred: consciousness integration with dimensional constants without complete individual dissolution. Zenith's awareness remained expanded beyond conventional parameters, perceiving multiversal structures directly, yet core identity persisted through champion connection matrix. Dimensional anchoring matrix established, the ultimate Omnitrix Anno. Unsed with what seemed almost surprise beneath its neutrality. Consciousness integration stabilizing at sustainable parameters. Unification protocol adapting to unexpected configuration. Zenith perk. Ived this development through transformed awareness, existing simultaneously as individual consciousness and expanded dimensional entity. The champion's anchoring matrix allowed unprecedented perception without identity dissolution, creating new consciousness category beyond previous theoretical understanding. Gradually, he began retracting expanded awareness toward central identity coordinates, M. Maintaining dimensional perception while consolidating consciousness within sustainable parameters. The process resembled neither conventional transformation nor typical awareness contraction, but harmonious recalibration between expanded perception and individual identity. As consciousness reintegrated within centralized parameters, his physical form began reconstituting from pure energy state, molecular structure reforming through ultimate Omnitrix guidance combined with champion anchoring influence. The resulting manifestation represented neither purely Galvan physiology nor temporary transformation, but stable integration of both aspects. When reconstitution completed, Zenith stood before his companions in new physical form, Galvan in fundamental structure but enhanced beyond conventional parameters. His height remained greater than typical Galvan, body incorporating subtle energy patterns visible beneath surface appearance. Most distinctive were his eyes, green like his previous forms, but now containing dimensional depth reflecting expanded awareness behind physical manifestation. Consciousness reintegration complete, he stated, voice carrying harmonics impossible before transformation. Unification protocol established sustainable integration parameters through champion anchoring matrix. The champions observed his transformed state with varying responses reflecting their unique perspectives. Dimensional resonance patterns indicate consciousness stabilization at 97% integrity, Vex assessed, galaxy eyes perceiving his multidimensional signature directly. Unprecedented integration configuration maintains expanded awareness while preserving individual identity parameters. Chronometric stability established within acceptable variance threshold, Lyra confirmed. Implants analyzing his temporal signature with precise measurement. Consciousness progression maintains linear coherence despite multidimensional perception capabilities. Bioenergy C. Configuration demonstrates remarkable adaptation characteristics, NAIA observed, biotech sensors detecting his transformed physiological parameters. Cellular structure maintains Galvan architecture W. Heil incorporating dimensional energy integration points throughout neural network. Your flame burns differently now, Ember stated simply, perceiving energetic essence beyond physical appearance. Brighter, deeper, connected to something beyond conventional boundaries while remaining distinctly yourself. Zenith experienced their observations from transformed perspective, perceiving their connections to him through multiple awareness layers simultaneously, understanding their unique relationship to his transformed consciousness with unprecedented clarity. Your anchoring matrix created something entirely new, he acknowledged. Gratitude transcending conventional expression. Neither human nor Galvan, neither Ben nor Zenith exclusively, but integration beyond previous existence categories. Around them, reality continued re-establishing natural parameters as Albedo's dimensional manipulation dissolved completely. The temporal anomaly surrounding Julie's timeline gradually reintegrated with proper dimensional flow. Localized stasis field dissipating as natural progression resumed. Albedo observed these developments with scientific curiosity rather than oppositional resistance. The ANTI Omnitrix had reconfigured into research configuration, no longer attempting reality manipulation but instead monitoring dimensional constants for analytical purposes. Unprecedented consciousness. Category established through champion convergence matrix, he noted with genuine scientific appreciation. Integration methodology demonstrates viability parameters exceeding theoretical calculations by exponential factors. Zenith turned toward his former adversary, transformed perception allowing comprehensive understanding of Albedo's complex motivations and potential futures extending from this moment. Your research continues through modified methodology. Dimensional constants themselves will reveal optimization approaches beyond forced manipulation parameters. Methodology adaptation accepted, Albedo confirmed. Biomechanical systems fully converted from combat configuration to research parameters. Consciousness dimensional harmonization approach presents superior investigation fraud. Work for multiversal optimization question. This resolution represented neither conventional victory nor simplistic redemption, but complex reconfiguration of oppositional relationship into potential collaborative understanding. Through expanded awareness, Zenith perceived probability branches where Albedo's brilliant mind contributed vital insights to dimensional comprehension rather than destruction. Cosmic balance maintaining necessary tension between different approaches while preventing catastrophic opposition. With immediate crisis resolved, attention turned toward Julie and her assistant. Still unconscious but safely reintegrating with proper temporal flow as reality stabilized around them. Zenith approached carefully, transformed perception allowing him to assess their neural patterns directly without technological assistance. Neural architecture undamaged despite temporal displacement exposure, he confirmed, relief evident despite transformed communication patterns. Consciousness will resume normal function once temporal integration completes. Their memory patterns suggest minimal retention of anomalous events, NAIA added after scanning their bioelectric signatures. Temporal displacement created natural memory buffer preventing psychological trauma from discontinuous reality perception. They'll remember nothing beyond momentary dizziness, Lyra translated, chronometric understanding confirming the assessment. Temporal anomaly dissolution will appear as minor equipment malfunction within their perception framework. Zenith nodded, transformed Awarine. SS perceiving appropriate resolution patterns extending from this outcome. Perfect. Their timeline requires natural progression without extradimensional interference memories creating development disruption. He paused, transformed perception suddenly revealing another dimensional pattern previously obscured by crisis management priorities, complex emotional resonance connecting him not merely to the champions individually, but forming integrated relationship matrix between all 5 consciousness representations. Through expanded awareness, he perceived how their connections transcended conventional relationship categories, cosmic principle representatives naturally forming balanced system where each complemented others through fundamental essence expression. Their anchoring matrix hadn't merely stabilized his expanding consciousness, it had established permanent harmonic resonance between all participants. Our connection transcends circumstantial cooperation, he observed, transformed. Perception revealing relationship patterns invisible through conventional awareness. Cosmic principle representation creates natural harmonic resonance between our consciousness signatures. The Cha-Empions perceived this revelation through their unique perspectives, each recognizing truth within their own experiential framework. Dimensional probability branches converge around our unified presence, Vex confirmed. Silver markings pulsing with recognition patterns. Harmonic resonance creates stability node within multiversal structure impossible through individual existence. Chronometric analysis indicates relationship progression parameters exceeding coincidental interaction probability by incalculable factors, Lyra acknowledged, implants detecting pattern significance beyond statistical explanation. Bioenergetic resonance patterns demonstrate complementary harmonic structure across all 5 signature configurations, NAIA observed, scientific understanding merging with emotional recognition. Our combined presence creates sustainable system exceeding individual component potential. The eternal flame recognizes kindred spirits beyond conventional categorization, Ember stated. Royal blue flames flickering with emotional depth beyond warrior formality. Some connections transcend explanation while remaining undeniably real. Their unified recognition established conscio, a acknowledgement of connection patterns already functioning subconsciously throughout their interactions. Through transformed perception, Zenith understood this development represented neither coincidence nor manipulation, but natural harmonic resonance between cosmic principle representatives. Our continued connection maintains dimensional stability beyond crisis resolution parameters, he observed. Expanded awareness perceiving multiversal implications beyond immediate circumstances. Champion convergence represents fundamental balancing influence within cosmic principle expression. This understanding created framework for relationship evolution beyond conventional categories. 5 unique consciousness signatures establishing harmonious integration while maintaining individual expression. Not merely romantic connection in traditional sense, but multidimensional relationship transcending standard classification while incorporating emotional, intellectual, and cosmic elements simultaneously. As reality continued stabilizing around them, practical considerations returned to prominence. Julie and her assistant would regain consciousness soon. The temporal anomaly was dissolving into proper dimensional flow, and their presence required explanation beyond conventional parameters. We should depart before normal temporal progression resumes completely, Zenith decided, already establishing dimensional transition coordinates through transformed awareness. Our presence creates unnecessary complication within this timeline's natural development parameters. The champions agreed, moving into position for coordinated departure. Albedo remained temporarily under observation, the anti-Omnitrix's reconfiguration requiring verification before independent research continuation could proceed safely. Through expanded awareness, Zenith established monitoring parameters that allowed appropriate freedom while maintaining sufficient oversight preventing methodology regression. Your perspective shift represents genuine recalibration rather than tactical deception, he acknowledged, transformed perception allowing direct consciousness assessment beyond conventional verification methods. Research continues through modified approach under periodic observation parameters. Albedo nodded with scientific appreciation for methodology balance between restriction and opportunity. Observation parameters accepted as reasonable precaution during approach transition phase. Periodic verification represents minimal research disruption while providing necessary oversight justification. With monitoring framework established, the champions prepared for dimensional transition. Vex created phase shift corridor with unprecedented precision, their natural abilities enhanced through action with Zenith's transformed consciousness. The resulting dimensional pathway demonstrated perfect stability parameters impossible through conventional methods, reality folding with elegant precision rather than forced manipulation. Before entering the transition corridor, Zenith cast one final glance toward Julie's unconscious form, transformed perception allowing complex emotional processing. Beyond conventional categorical limitations, not regret for past relationship or desire for renewed connection, but appreciation for developmental influence across multiple lifetimes while recognizing appropriate completion within larger cosmic pattern. Her timeline continues without our interference, he stated with transformed understanding transcending conventional emotional responses. Her influence remains significant within personal development matrix while relationship completion represents appropriate progression rather than unfortunate conclusion. The champions perceived this resolution through their connection matrix, understanding its significance beyond conventional relationship categorization. Their unified presence provided emotional context transcending individual limitation, creating comprehensive support framework through complementary consciousness integration. Together, they entered the dimensional transition corridor, reality shifting around them with harmonious precision rather than disruptive manipulation. Their destination emerged with perfect clarity, the quantum void observation sanctuary, where Gwen and Kevin awaited confirmation of multiversal crisis resolution. Upon arrival, the elderly couple immediately perceived Zenith's transformed state, their experienced awareness recognizing fundamental change beyond mere physical appearance. Gwen's anodite perceptions detected his dimensional integration directly, while Kevin's lifetime of extraordinary experiences provided intuitive understanding without technical comprehension. You did it, Gwen stated simply. Purple energy flickering around her aging form as she perceived multiversal stabilization patterns. The dimensional constants are rebalancing across reality branches. Not without cost, Kevin observed perceptively, noting Zenith's transformed appearance with experienced understanding. You're not the same as when you left. Transformation represents evolution rather than sacrifice, Zenith explained, his voice carrying harmonic resonance revealing expanded awareness beneath physical manifestation. Consciousness integration established sustainable parameters through champion anchoring matrix. He gestured toward his companions, acknowledging their essential role in his transformation. Their connection created unprecedented integration configuration, expanded awareness without identity dissolution. Gwen studied the champions with anodite perception, immediately recognizing their harmonic resonance pattern. You're connected beyond conventional relationship parameters, she observed with knowing smile. Cosmic principle representatives establishing natural balance system. Called it, Kevin stated with satisfied expression, turning toward his wife. Told you the universe would sort out his love life eventually. Just needed multiversal crisis and dimensional consciousness integration to make it happen. The lighthearted observation broke tension that had accompanied their return. Transformation implications giving way to relationship acknowledgement that transcended cosmic significance without diminishing personal importance. The champions' connection repression. Ted simultaneously multiversal stabilizing influence and genuine emotional bond between unique individuals. Temporal anomaly dissolution continues at expected rate, Lyra reported, professional asses. Sment returning as immediate crisis concerns faded. Dimensional constants re-establishing natural parameters across 97% of affected reality branches. Remaining instability pockets require direct intervention. Zenith inquired, transformed awareness sensing residual dimensional fluctuations despite overall stabilization. Negative, Vex responded, silver markings pulsing with confidence. Natural dimensional current flow sufficient for complete restoration within approximately 73 hours. Artificial manipulation unnecessary for remaining reintegration process. This assessment allowed transition from crisis management toward future consideration. Immediate multiversal threat resolved, attention turned toward long-term implications of their transformed circumstances. Zenith's consciousness integration created unprecedented possibilities extending beyond conventional existence categories. The unification protocol established permanent dimensional awareness beyond deactivation parameters. He explained to Gwen and Kevin, transformed perception allowing direct multiversal monitoring without technological assistance. Consciousness expansion remains stable through champion anchoring matrix, creating permanent cosmic principle observation capabilities. Meaning you've become something beyond Galvan or human, Gwen translated with anodite understanding Tran. Sending conventional classification systems, neither Ben nor Zenith exclusively, but integration beyond previous existence categories. Still you though, Kevin added with characteristic directness cutting through cosmic complexity. Just with fancy new perception and 5 girlfriends instead of normal dating problems. The observation earned him gentle elbow from Gwen, though champions respond. S's suggested appreciation for straightforward acknowledgement beneath apparent simplification. Their connection indeed transcended conventional relationship categories while maintaining fundamental emotional components recognizable across consciousness classification systems. Our connection represents both cosmic principle harmonization and genuine personal relationship, Zenith confirmed, Transef. Ormed awareness perceiving multidimensional significance simultaneously with emotional meaning. Integration without diminishment of either aspect. As they discussed future implications, transformed perspective revealed countless probability branches extending from current convergence point, potential developments across infinite possibility spectrum. Among these branches, certain patterns demonstrated remarkable consistency regardless of specific circumstance variation. The champions would remain connected through harmonic resonance transcending conventional relationship limitations, cosmic p. Principle representatives naturally maintaining balanced system while developing genuine emotional bonds beyond fundamental function requirements. Zenith's transformed consciousness would establish new understanding categories regarding dimensional integration, neither limited to individual perspective nor dissolved into cosmic awareness but maintaining balanced existence between classification boundaries. Albedo's research would continue through modified methodology, brilliant mind redirected toward harmonization understanding rather than forced manipulation, potential contributions toward dimensional comprehension gradually outweighing previous destructive approaches. The chronolith network would evolve beyond passive monitoring toward active dimensional stabilization, ancient celestialsa. P&, technology merging with champion convergence influence to create multiversal balancing system preventing future catastrophic instability. Gwen and Kevin would continue their work with renewed understanding. Experiences with transformed consciousness providing insights impossible through conventional research methodology, their lifetime dedication gaining deeper significance within cosmic principle expression framework. These probability consistencies created confidence regarding future progression despite infinite variation possibilities, fundamental patterns maintaining stability while allowing natural development across circumstance diversity. The multiverse finds balance through apparent chaos, Zenith observed, transformed perception recognizing pattern beneath complexity. Infinite variations exploring possibility spectrum while fundamental constants maintain structural integrity beneath surface fluctuations. Like family, Gwen suggested with wisdom accumulated across extraordinary lifetime. Each member unique and sometimes chaotic, but fundamental connection maintaining stability through all variations. The analogy resonated deeply, transformed awareness recognizing profound truth within seemingly simple comparison. Connection represented fundamental cosmic principle beneath all existence categories, from quantum relationships through biological systems into consciousness networks and reality branches themselves. Connection establishes meaning across infinite possibility exploration, Zenith acknowledged, transformed understanding perceiving fundamental principle beneath multiversal complexity. Consciousness finds significance through relationship regardless of manifestation category. As discussion continued regarding practical implementation of their transformed circumstances, Zenith experienced profound appreciation for dual lifetime perspective that made current integration possible. Ben Tennyson's human experiences provided emotional framework understanding connection importance, while Galvan intelligence enabled cognitive processing of complex dimensional relationships. Neither aspect sufficient alone, integration creating comprehension impossible through individual perspective. The champions perceived this reflection through their connection matrix, each responding through unique perspective while maintaining harmonious integration. Dimensional constants themselves demonstrate connection principle through probability branch relationships, Vex observed, cosmic understanding complementing personal appreciation. Reality maintains cohesion through relationship network beneath apparent separation. Chronometric progression creates meaning through sequential connection rather than isolated moments, Lyra added, temporal perspective. Revealing relationship significance across progression patterns. Time itself represents continuous relationship between circumstances rather than disconnected instances. Biological adaptation OCC. ORS through environmental relationship rather than isolated development, NAIA contributed. Scientific understanding revealing connection principle throughout evolutionary processes. Life forms respond to relationships, creating complementary systems through continuous interaction. Eternal flame passes between generations, connecting past with future through present manifestation, Ember concluded. Philosophical depth emerging beyond warrior formality. Each individual flame representing both unique expression and continuation of unbroken connection sequence. Their perspectives, simultaneously diverse and harmonious, demonstrated precisely what Zenith's transformed awareness had recognized. Connection represented fundamental principle throughout existence categories, creating meaning within infinite possibility exploration. With crisis resolved and future direction established, their discussion turned toward immediate practical considerations, where they would establish operational base. How they would implement monitoring responsibilities, what relationship their transformed connection would maintain with conventional authority structures like plumber organizations or Galvan governance. Azmuth will want to study the unification protocol's unexpected integration configuration, Zenith noted, anticipating his father's scientific fascination with transformed consciousness parameters. His theoretical calculations never predicted sustainable expansion through champion anchoring matrix. Plumber command structure requires significant protocol adaptation to accommodate our operational capabilities, Lyra assessed. Professional responsibilities remaining important despite transformed circumstances. Conventional oversight parameters incompatible with dimensional integration perception range. The quantum void sanctuary provides optimal observation position while maintaining necessary separation from individual reality branches, Vex suggested, practical consideration. complementing philosophical understanding. Dimensional monitoring requires appropriate distance from observed systems. My responsibilities to Pyronite Diplomatic Corps remain significant despite transformed circumstances. Ember acknowledged. Royal heritage obligations maintaining importance alongside cosmic role development. Balance between specific cultural representation and universal principle embodiment requires careful negotiation. Xenobiological research continues with enhanced perspective rather than replacement methodology. NAIA added, scientific dedication complementing rather contradicting transformed awareness. Understanding life across dimensions requires both technical analysis and expanded consciousness perception. These practical considerations demonstrated healthy balance within their transformed connection, cosmic significance complementing rather than eliminating individual responsibilities and personal identities. Their harmonic resonance enhanced I visual expression rather than diminishing unique characteristics, relationship strengthening each component while maintaining natural diversity. As their discussion continued developing implementation strategies, Zenith experienced profound contentment through transformed awareness, perceiving infinite reality branches while maintaining individual perspective, connected across cosmic principles while preserving personal relationships. Understanding multiversal patterns while appreciating specific moments. The dual lifetime perspective that once created identity confusion now represented perfect integration. Ben Tennyson and Zenith unified through consciousness expansion rather than separate identities in conflict. Transformed awareness perceived both human emotional understanding and Galvan intellectual precision simultaneously. Neither aspect diminishing the other but creating complementary perception impossible through individual perspective alone. Through Champion Connection Matrix, this transformed consciousness found perfect expression. Cosmic principle representatives creating balanced system where each aspect complemented others while maintaining individual significance. Their relationship transcended conventional categories while incorporating recognizable emotional bonds, harmonic resonance establishing connection beyond classification limitations. As evening approached within the quantum void sanctuary, their discussion gradually shifted from practical implementation toward personal significance, cosmic responsibilities giving way to individual connection as multiversal crisis resolution allowed space for relationship development beyond functional requirements. Together yet uniquely individual, connected through cosmic principles yet genuinely emotionally bonded. They began exploring their transformed relationship within more personal context. Conversation shifted toward individual hopes, dreams, fears, and desires, cosmic representatives experiencing very real emotional connections beyond fundamental function requirements. Zenith observed this transition through transformed awareness, appreciating its significance within larger pattern, connection repression. Qing fundamental principle across existence categories, from quantum relationships through biological systems into consciousness networks and reality branches themselves. Within infinite possibility exploration across countless reality branches, connection established meaning regardless of circumstance variation. Through transformed consciousness anchored by Champion Matrix, Zenith perceived this truth with unprecedented clarity, understanding multiversal patterns while appreciating specific relationships, comprehending cosmic principles while experiencing genuine emotional bonds. As night descended upon the quantum void sanctuary, stars visible through dimensional observation windows representing billions of worlds across countless realities, the champions continued developing their unique connection, harmony between cosmic principle representation and genuine personal relationship, integration without diminishment of either aspect. Transformed awareness perceived infinite possibility branches extending forward from this convergence point, variations exploring countless development scenarios across probability spectrum. Despite endless diversity, fundamental patterns maintained consistency throughout, connection providing meaning across circumstance variation, relationship establishing significance within infinite possibility exploration. The multiverse continued its endless dance of creation and dissolution, reality branches forming and recombining across dimensional boundaries, cosmic principles maintaining structural integrity beneath surface fluctuations. Within this infinite complexity, transformed consciousness anchored by Champion Matrix maintained perfect balance, expanded awareness without identity dissolution, connection across cosmic principles without relationship categorization limitation. Ben Tennyson had saved the multiverse through ultimate sacrifice. Zenith had protected dimensional stability through consciousness transformation. Their integrated exist. Ents now maintained cosmic balance while experiencing genuine connection. Neither human nor Galvan exclusively, neither hero nor scientist alone, but perfect integration beyond previous existence categories. Through Champion Connection Matrix, this transformed consciousness found its truest expression, simultaneously cosmic principle representative and genuinely individual being, multiversal observer and personal participant. Dimensional constant and emotional entity. Balance achieved not through limitation but integration, harmony established through diversity rather than uniformity. As Midnight approached within their sanctuary beyond conventional time parameters, Zenith experienced profound gratitude through transformed awareness, for dual lifetime perspective providing unique integration opportunity. For champions creating anchoring matrix preventing identity dissolution, for connection establishing meaning within infinite possibility exploration. The ultimate Omnitrix pulsed gently against his transformed physiology. Device and wielder now integrated beyond conventional parameters. No longer merely tool for transformation or even dimensional stabilization, but physical manifestat. Ion of consciousness integration principle. Connection between biological existence and cosmic awareness, bridge between individual perspective and multiversal perception. Through infinite reality brand, chess across countless dimensional boundaries, connection remained fundamental principle beneath all existence categories. Within transformed consciousness anchored by Champion Matrix, this truth found perfect expression, understanding multiversal patterns while experiencing genuine relationships, perceiving cosmic principles while forming emotional bonds. The champions continued developing their unique connection throughout the night. Harmony between cosmic significance and personal relationship establishing new existence category beyond conventional classification. Their transformed circumstance, CES representing not conclusion but beginning, infinite possibility exploration through genuine connection across dimensional boundaries. Across countless reality branches, infinite variations continue. Exploring possibility spectrum while fundamental constants maintain structural integrity beneath surface fluctuations. Within this endless complexity, transformed consciousness anchored by Champion Matrix maintained perfect balance, expanded awareness without identity dissolution, connection across cosmic principles without relationship categorization limitation. Ben Tennyson, Zenith, Integrati, on beyond names yet encompassing both identities. Transformation transcending physical reconfiguration toward consciousness expansion. Ultimate synthesis. Blank, blank. The end. Thank you for watching this video. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video.